6:30, call this meeting to order, and we'll start with the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming tonight. We'll start with our celebration of excellence. I'll turn things over to the superintendent.
All right, thank you very much. We have a robust celebration of excellence tonight, so I'm very excited to be here. We're going to first start with our BCS CAS Scholar leaders. So I'm going to invite Adriana Maelli and Isabel or Bella Goodness to come on up and stand kind of right in front of that pink microphone, please, just so you can be recognized. So the 8th grade team is pleased to announce Adriana Maelli as one of the recipients of the Connecticut Middle School Scholar Leader Award. Adriana's standard for academic excellence shows in the classroom regardless of whether an assignment is a short task or a large-scale project. It is because of this high standard that her peers look to her as a leader in the classroom. She is also a dynamic leader because of her creativity and the compassion she shows to others. Not only does she succeed, but she wants others around her to succeed as well. She is the epitome of respect, kindness, and dedication. In addition to her hard work with her academics, she is a leader in the BCS chorus and soccer team, earning the award for Best Teammate after the 2023 season. She is a role model for her peers, teammates, and 2 younger sisters who have a shining star for a big sister. Adriana, we are very proud of you. Congratulations to you and your family. And next, Bella Goodness. This year's 8th grade team is also proud to select Bella Goodness as one of our 2 Scholar Leader Award recipients. In the few short years she has been at BCS, Bella has quickly distinguished herself as a quiet leader both in and out of the classroom. She has been an academic high honor student throughout her time, earning the school's science award in 6th grade, social studies award in 7th grade. She also earned the distinction of the top female student academically in 7th grade, and as such served as a marshal for the 2023 8th grade promotion. Outside the classroom, Bella has been involved in the BCS Art Club in 6th grade, a member of the cross-country team in 7th and 8th. And in all of these activities, she demonstrates leadership qualities that accept all of those around her and encourages everyone. It is for these reasons that the team is proud to recognize Bella for this award as well. Congratulations, Bella, to you and your family. Well done, Bella. Both girls will be attending the CAS Scholar Leader Banquet with Mr. Giard in a couple of weeks.
Yes, a couple weeks.
All right, where they're going to receive their plaque and award that night. So girls, congratulations again. Well done. I love that little yay. I'd like to have that run through my mind. All right, next, it is my honor to present Mrs. Dory Moore and our VEX Robotics champions who went on to Worlds. And Ms. Moore is going to introduce them. Yes, please. Agreed.
Okay. Hi, everybody. So we are really excited because now 2 years in a row, we have had our VEX IQ teams qualify for the World Championship, and it's been held in Texas. It's really neat because Mia on the team is a returning, so she's a 2-time world attendee, which is just unheard of. And one of the things I feel like that happened this year is people were like, oh man, cool, we have like a world-class robotics program, and this happens every year, our team's gonna go to World. But that's not the case. There's hundreds of teams in the state of Connecticut, and only 5 middle school teams got an invitation to Worlds, which was down from 9 from last year. And last year they competed in the elementary division, which has way less teams, and it's like, you know, it's strong competition, but like middle school is the real deal of VEX IQ. And they both rose to the challenge, did an incredible job, and it's a huge honor that they competed and succeeded and did so well on the middle school level. And then went to Worlds and in their division out of 85
Can we
teams.
just introduce
Oh,
the two girls?
Yeah,
Maybe
sorry.
have them come
Let's
up
have
here?
them come up. I'm just
I
so
know,
excited
I
about
know.
them. Come on up and bring the robot because that's part of your team.
All right, so Mia Parasino and
Yeah.
Ari Rivera, come on up.
Yeah.
I know, I get it. There's a reason why we've gone to Worlds twice.
Yeah, no, hold on. So, look at this thing. It starts out as pieces in a bin at the beginning of the season, and we got a video challenge release, which happened last Friday. It's very excited. We're already pumped about this new season. And together these girls worked to make this into a huge functioning robot that could score, what was your high score? 140 points at World, which is a huge
That's
deal.
awesome.
At States, the highest score was probably like 71, maybe 80. No, but like doubled. It's amazing. So proud of them. And they coded it. They built this robot too many times. So I was gone on maternity leave for half the season. They were emailing me, contacting me, working so hard. Some teams, actually other schools told them, they were like, oh, our teacher's out on maternity leave, so our robot isn't that great. And they're like, that's a sob story. They didn't use it as a sob story. They used it to rise above the challenge. So proud of them. I'm gonna get this right. Over the season, they got the judges order first tournament. They got the robot skills champion at the second tournament, which is incredible because the middle school Plainville has like these top teams every year. They're a dynasty. And in a tie-breaking score, they won.
Woo!
Skills champion. Yeah. These teams were like, where did they come from? Amazing. And then they also got teamwork second place. Incredible. And so we're just really proud of them. And they're a girl powered team, which is extra special because
Yep.
it's a team with all girls. And so they're like recognized in Vex Robotics as girl powered because it's so special and so awesome. So I'm very proud of them. And they brought the robot because I feel like we talk about robotics,
Yeah.
but no one ever actually gets to see it. So I told them like we can like turn on and
Please
pick up a
do.
few cubes.
Yeah, please
So
do.
as they get that sorted, I'll tell you this year's challenge, there's like a bunch of different size blocks and they had to pick it up and there's different scoring zones and they had to pick it up and then dump the blocks into the scoring zone. And this is probably their fifth robot, but you're like your second like big one, right? Yeah, and what was really neat is they also keep an engineering notebook of what they do throughout the season, and being out was really cool because I showed up, you know, back in February, like, oh, here's the first tournament. What do our teams have? Because I had no idea what the robots looked like. And I was going through their engineering notebook and like was able to follow along their build and with all the pictures. And it was just really cool. So they've worked so hard and they did so much of it on their own because it's a student-centered program and just really cool. So they have the purple and the green blocks and I pick it up and they dump into scoring zones. And so you're not gonna really see too much because we don't have the field and stuff, but it's cool. It looks like we're having trouble because that's what always happens. I think it happened last time.
It did. That's okay. It's all good.
Other robot.
Well, that's awesome. Girls, that's amazing. Right? Yeah. Congratulations. That is amazing. Well done. Thank you, girls, very much. Would you like to say anything about your experience in Texas?
Very fun.
Yeah, all right, good. You gearing to go for next year? I like it. All right, great job. Congratulations. Thank you, Mrs. Moore. All right, next it is my pleasure to introduce Senora J, who is going to tell us about BCS Heifer International Pajama Day and introduce some students on a presentation. Come on up.
Good evening. It is very hard to follow Miss Moore in that energy, so I'm gonna try. But I'd like to introduce the speakers for the Heifer International Pajama Day fundraiser that we held at BCS. Leah Walsh, Mia Dale Rasher, and Amelia Martinez, please come up. I prepared some slides. Is it possible to show that or?
Yes, I'm gonna ask Ms. Johnson if we could turn the, do we have the slides?
That's okay. That's okay. They have their script, so.
Okay. Hmm.
Good evening, my name is Leah Walsh. My name is Mia Del Rasher. And my name is Amelia Martinez. We are the 7th grade students of Miss J's homeroom. Today we will be representing the Heifer International fundraiser for BCS. Heifer International is a charity that donates animals to people in need. The animals help provide a sustainable food source or a steady income. For example, goats, sheep, heifers, pigs, a flock of chicks, ducks, and honeybees are all offered for various uses. A family can use the wool a sheep provides for income. A flock of chicks will produce eggs for food or to be sold. As homeroom students of a Spanish class, Ms. J thought it was especially important to bring awareness to the struggles of other families not as fortunate as ours. It was also a great way to have a real-world impact on some of the Spanish-speaking places we study, as Heifer International works in several countries in Central and South America. We recently learned that our funds went to flagship projects in Mexico, Guatemala, and Honduras. All students in the 7th grade contributed to the success of this project. We made animals and posters. We drew animals and made posters to put around the school. A few others besides us also came during lunch to put extra work into creating posters and flyers. Without everybody's contribution, this fundraiser would not have been possible. The process of creating posters was time-consuming. Each big letter was individually drawn using Sharpie. In total, I and a few others made 10 posters. We then spent our study halls and lunches putting these posters up all over the school. To raise money, we decided to have a pajama day. Leading up to the pajama day, slides were created in the morning announcements with a few animals to describe how they help. I volunteered on pajama day to be on the morning announcements to thank everyone for their contribution. When collecting donations, customized envelopes were designed by me and a few other peers. This is one of the things that the teachers deeply appreciated. They loved the personalized animal drawing and note on their class's envelope. After all our hard work, $804.55 was raised for Heifer International. We were able to donate 1 heifer, 1 goat, 1 sheep, 1 hive of honeybees, and 1 flock of chicks. We are more than happy to have everyone's help and contribution. Thank you.
Great job.
It was a delight to work with these such driven, creative, compassionate students for this fundraiser. Their energy and enthusiasm to help others was inspiring. We are already thinking of ways to make this fundraiser bigger and better for next year.
All right, great
Thank
job,
you.
girls. Well done. Thank you, Senora. Now, on to our senior representative, Erin Tignali. So I'm going to talk about Erin twice tonight, but I'm going to leave the second time I'm going to talk about her as a wee bit of a surprise for everyone in a little bit. But I want to thank you, Erin. It is a big commitment to do this, not for 1, but for 2 years with everything else that you have going on. You are so involved in so many things. You are a high achieving student who takes a very rigorous course load, and you're just an absolute delight. And I am going to miss you very much. And I wish you all the best in what is to come. And I have a little gift for you as a way to say thank you. We give Erin a hand, please. Okay. Now it is my honor to share with everyone tonight that Olivia Bakshon will be this year's valedictorian for the class of 2024 at Bolton High School. Olivia is an athlete, busy engaged in her athletic pursuit right at the moment, so she is not with us tonight. But I just want to share with everyone that she's a member of National Honor Society. She served as a class officer for 4 years and has received numerous awards and recognition during her time at Bolton High School. She will be attending the University of Connecticut in the fall and has received the UConn's Presidential Scholars Award, which honors Connecticut valedictorians and salutatorians, a renewable scholarship for 4 years, and a one-time enrichment award to be used in an educationally or professionally enriching activity. I want to congratulate Olivia and her family. Congratulations. And now for our salutatorian, Ms. Erin Tignali for the class of 2024. Erin has involved herself, as you heard me say already, in many aspects of Bolton High School over the course of her high school career. She's a member of National Honor Society, an athlete, and serves as student representative, as you know, to the Board of Ed. She's been the recipient of several awards, including this year's CAVE Award. Erin will also be attending the University of Connecticut in the fall and has received UConn's Presidential Scholars Award, renewable for 4 years. Well done, Erin. Congratulations. That's awesome. And congrats to your family too. You must be very proud. Well done. All right, and now on to our retirements. So I'm going to start with Amy Castellini. She was not able to be here with us this evening, but 35 years ago, she began her teaching career in the Bolton Public Schools as a long-term sub, and then dedicated her time and career to impacting the lives of countless Bolton students. Anyone who's worked alongside Amy has seen firsthand how she goes out of her way to care for her students and make them feel seen and heard each day. This is so apparent by the number of former students that she hears from and connects with on how they're doing and the impact they still feel from being in her class. These lifelong connections are what meant the most to her. Over the years, she's brought her passions for the national parks and nature into her classroom to share with her students. They become passionate and excited about the topic simply because they see how passionate and excited she is about it. Amy will be greatly missed, and we wish her health and happiness in her retirement. Next is Joan Jarvis, who was not able to be with us tonight, but Joan has dedicated 38 years to the Bolton Public Schools in a number of roles. She's helped students in many grade levels over the years, with her most recent focus being on the elementary grades. Her dedication and support have left a lasting impact on the students and families she's worked with over the years, and we wish Joan health and happiness in her retirement. Mrs. Sue Nolan. We'd like to recognize Sue Nolan for her dedicated service as a special education teacher in the Bolton Public Schools. Throughout her time in Bolton, she has been a resource of support to countless students, families, and colleagues. Her commitment to fostering a nurturing and inclusive environment has made a lasting impact on the lives of so very many. Mrs. Nolan also has contributed to the special education program during the extended year program in the summer, each year providing support to our students with the highest needs. Sue, we wish you a retirement filled with joy, happiness, and health. And we're going to miss you, and we have a gift for you. I'm gonna come to you anyways and give you a thanks. All right, gentle little one. Congratulations. Next, we have our nurse at Bolton Center School, Mary Welsh, and Mary could not be with us this evening. Mary has been our school nurse at Bolton Center School for the last 14 years. She works tirelessly for students and families, and they appreciate and value her insight and her medical knowledge. Mary's dedication to the school community and compassion has touched so many lives in our community. For example, she was instrumental, and I would like to say that in large capital letters, in our district's ability to navigate COVID. Not only did she assist with the development of procedures to keep everyone safe during that time with Director Goldsnyder, but she spent countless hours doing contact tracing and keeping track of student and staff absences and just making sure that everybody was going to be okay. Some people say they work 24/7. Mary literally worked 24/7 during the entire pandemic. I want to thank Mary. We all want to thank Mary for her dedicated years of service and the difference she has made to both our school and our community. We wish her health and happiness in the next chapter of her life, and she will be greatly missed. Oh gosh. The next one, Mr. Rick Lambert. For a quarter of a century, Rick has been the cornerstone of the 8th grade team. I didn't write that part, Rick, I'm just saying. but I did read it. From teaching social studies to advising student council to being the co-advisor to the 8th grade class, Rick has been an integral part of the middle school. Not only did students have the pleasure of learning in his classroom, but they were also able to witness his many talents, both inside and outside of the classroom. Within the classroom, Rick often serenaded his class with his acoustic guitar, supplying lyrics about major historic events. He would often tell his students they could remember history just like the lyrics of a song. Very true. He's also an amazing photographer. He used these talents to capture incredible memories throughout the school year. For many years, at the end of the school year, 8th grade students were gifted an individualized photograph from Mr. Lambert as a memento from their year. He would also put on special slideshow for the grade of all the photos set to a curated soundtrack of songs. More recently, the back wall of the 8th grade class night has been covered in photos for each and every 8th grade student, personally photographed by our very own Mr. Lambert. Additionally, Rick could always be counted on to play a role in the annual variety show. From things like, oh, The Wolf and the Three Little Pigs, that was a good one, to Aretha Franklin, to the Mom and Hairspray, Miss Hannigan and Annie, Elton John, Margaret Thatcher, Julia Child, and many more. How lucky the students at BCS have been to have had Mr. Lambert as their teacher. Aside from a devoted teacher and coworker and friend to all who have been lucky to teach with him, your friends and your teachers and your students will miss your stories, your delicious cooking, and your expertise in all things middle school. Congratulations, Rick, to you, health and happiness and fun in your travels. Congratulations. Come on up, Rick. I really should have worn sneakers. I didn't think this through. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
So I'm pretty sure I was Mr. Lambert's first class.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Order.
Come full circle.
Yes, it has, hasn't it? Who knew, Rick, huh? Oh, goodness. All right. And next, we have Mr. Paul Smith.
Who I had.
Did you too? Yeah. Okay.
Sweet determined his time. He doesn't want to have my daughter. He feels like it's way too long.
Paul Smith joined Bolton High School Social Studies Department in 2000. Quickly, he became an educational force within the school community. Paul has positively impacted countless students, both in and outside the classroom. Throughout his time at BHS, Paul has taught several courses within the Social Studies Department, most notably 11th grade US history courses. Through his engaging lessons and thought-provoking discussions, he has instilled in his students a deeper appreciation for diversity, empathy, and the power of being an informed citizen. In Paul's classes, students know they are going to not just learn history, but life skills as well. His passion for teaching extends far beyond textbooks, as he nurtures not only academic growth, but also personal development, instilling in students the importance of hard work, as well as the values of integrity and responsibility. He holds his students to high standards, and they rise to it every single time because of the respect that they have for him. Paul's commitment to excellence has inspired not only his students, but his colleagues as well. He has always been willing to share his experiences with fellow educators and has acted as a mentor to many new teachers. Not only has Paul been an invaluable member of the faculty at BHS, but his teaching has extended far beyond the walls of the classroom to coaching. Paul began his BHS coaching career in 2002 as cross-country coach. That year, he took over a team that had 8 runners, and in just 6 years, he had created a boys and a girls team and had 65 runners. Amazing. Like in his classroom, Paul created a culture of hard work, high standards, and a commitment to excellence for all his runners. This commitment built BHS into a Class S powerhouse running factory. From 2007 to 2012, the BHS cross-country team won the state championship or was runner-up, which is an amazing accomplishment. In total, throughout Paul's illustrious coaching career, he has coached the BHS cross-country team to 5 state championships and 5 runners-up. He has also coached 30 all-state runners, as well as 3 all-New England runners. Luckily for our BHS student athletes, Paul is staying on as coach. Right? Paul's dedication to the craft of teaching has been nothing short of inspirational. Day in and day out, he brought passion, creativity, and unwavering commitment to his role, instilling in his students a love for learning that will endure long after they leave these halls. Paul, congratulations, best wishes for health and happiness in your retirement, and I look forward to seeing you running every day, sir. I just want you all to know I've been practicing this for days and not crying. Practicing not crying. I want to be clear on that for all this, because it's just it's a hard thing when you're such wonderful people are moving on to other things. Going to be greatly missed. Last but certainly not least is Dean Christine Johnson. Christine has had many successful years in the field of education. She began her career as a special education teacher. She took a 7-year hiatus to raise her beautiful daughter and son before becoming an administrator. She spent 10 years as assistant principal of Killingly High School and has spent her last 10 years with us as dean of students at Bolton High School. She is like no other when it comes to collecting data. She would come to my office and bring spreadsheet after spreadsheet after spreadsheet. I think at one point I told her, Christine, you got to figure out a way to pare this down for me. She is known for her color coordinated spreadsheets that track information on schedules, attendance, test scores, and grades. Her data has been instrumental in helping assign students to receive the individualized instruction and attention that they need. It is evident that Christine believes that student success hinges on a strong partnership between parents, students, and staff. She keeps the line of communication open with parents and checks in regularly with students who may be struggling with attendance or behavior. Rather than being strictly punitive, Christine often thinks outside the box to come up with plans or rewards to get students to buy in positively to changing their behaviors. To many of them, she is a safe adult rather than a disciplinarian. Christine has played a pivotal role in ensuring the success of many students throughout their academic journey, and her commitment to helping students graduate who may be struggling a little bit is truly commendable. Throughout the years, she has been passionate about creating a positive environment for both students and staff. She's been the leader of the Positive Culture and Climate Committee, which brings staff members together to plan activities to promote a positive environment at Bolton High School. Because of Christine's leadership, students have enjoyed such activities as cookie rewards, hot chocolate at lunch, missed that one, connections activities, and recognition on the bulletin board, just to name a few. She also supports students by attending and taking pictures during shows, athletic events. She attends field trips. She's been abroad with students, you name it, Christine's there. She is a mainstay at student events. Additionally, she has worked tirelessly to build positive morale for the employees. She makes sure that staff members are continuously recognized for their hard work by organizing potluck luncheons, teacher appreciation activities, and putting shout outs to specific teachers in the weekly update to staff. The staff will miss her down-to-earth demeanor and sense of humor, and so will I. Christine should know that her impact on the Bolton community has been monumental, and she can certainly make a difference and has with her world of work. We will miss you and wish you much health and happiness, and have fun in your travels with your husband. Congratulations, Christine. we have one round of applause for our retirees? And that concludes our celebration of excellence for tonight.
Everyone is welcome to stay for a regular meeting if you'd like, or if anyone would like to leave, now is a good time, but. I'm not
Yeah,
telling any, I'm not telling anyone to do one or the other.
Thank you all. Thank you very much. And thank you, kids, for participating tonight. We appreciate it. Great job. You guys, she's not gonna be long. We're gonna get to her part pretty quickly, so.
Trying to say hi to teacher.
Okay, yeah, okay. Oh, I didn't know. I thought they were talking about,
I don't
sorry,
know.
my bad.
Oh, or not.
See, you should tell her you're leaving in like 5 minutes.
I don't know.
You guys, she's literally gonna be ready to leave in like 5 minutes. Okay, we'll just keep going.
Yeah. Just like it.
Yeah, I'll take you home there. Don't worry about it. You just have to stay to the end. All right.
I know.
Yeah.
Ready?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on with our regularly scheduled programming and comments from the audience. Is there anyone in the audience this evening who would like to make a comment or statement to the board? All right. Additions to the agenda, we're gonna move G2, the band and choir trip to Orlando, to D1, which is right now.
Mr. Air, come on up, sir.
Good evening. I'll be pretty quick with this because I know there's a lot on the agenda tonight. But we are requesting to travel with the band and choir from Bolton High School to Orlando, Florida next April. Go on to the next slide, please. And so these are the tentative dates. So it's a 5-day, 4-night trip. This is very similar to trips that we've done to Orlando in the past. The last one we did was in 2016. We were about to do one in 2020. And we all know what happened there. We may adjust the dates a little bit depending on the Disney schedule and airfare, but that's what we're looking at. Next slide. So here's what the trip's including. There will be either a performing or workshop experience for both band and choir. Round trip air transportation's included. We've got the price estimated at $575 per person. There's also a luggage allowance for large instruments, so we'll be able to bring all the band equipment that we need along with us. 4 nights hotel accommodation at one of the Disney properties, and motor coach transportation to and from the airport and to where we need to go in Orlando. It also includes 9 meals for the students, a 3-day Disney park admission, so we get to go to 1 park per day while we're down there, and then also 1 day at the Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure parks. That includes both parks. We would have a security officer from Walt Disney World on site at the hotel each evening from 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. And we would also have 24/7 on-call service from our Perkins travel representative. We wouldn't be bringing a travel representative with us on the trip, and we've done this successfully in the past where we haven't done that, but we have them on call, so if something comes up, they're there to support us, and then all taxes and gratuities. So the cost that we're looking at right now is their $1,932 per student, and we would also require families to purchase a cancel for any reason travel insurance coverage, and that would run approximately $125 per traveler. And that would allow that cancellation for any reason up to 48 hours prior to the departure, with 75% of the non-refundable expenses reimbursed. And it would also provide 100% reimbursement if it's a cancellation due to, a global pandemic or something like that. We are doing a lot of fundraising. We actually already started this year doing fundraising. The students already raised over $4,000 this year towards the trip, towards some trip. And this is what we're hoping for. We're also planning several fundraisers for next year that Bolton Music Works is going to support us in doing. So we're hoping to defray the cost. And each student, as they do fundraising, that goes into an individual account for that student. So, each family can work on defraying the cost for their own students that way. And any questions?
Do the kids all check the instruments as luggage?
Yes.
I know in the past, and only because my dad used to be the person, we had rented a box truck to send the big instruments down there a couple days ahead.
Right. So that's an option, but in the past, when we've done this trip, we've just checked the instruments and we haven't had an
If
issue
that
with
works,
that.
it's probably easier.
Yeah, and if it's a small instrument, if it's like a flute or
So you
something,
got
they
a
can
lot of
just carry it
tubas.
on the plane with them.
Yeah.
A lot of tubas.
Yeah, so we would check those, Mr. Davy.
Thank you. What steps can the district take to ensure that our LGBTQ and especially any trans students we have who might be interested in going on this trip, but fear the reception that they may receive in Florida?
That is a great question that I hadn't really considered, but maybe that's something we could discuss further. I'd be happy to have a conversation about that. I know when we've gone on these types of trips in the past, that's not been a concern. Obviously, it's a different time now, but I'd love to speak with you more about that to put those supports in place.
Thank you.
Great question. So I'm gonna ask Mr. Maselli and Mr. Air will follow up with you on that. Okay,
Okay, so that's all I have. So we're just asking for
yeah, a motion to move that forward.
I haven't seen the chaperone sign up yet.
good to know.
I trump some people, I'm just gonna. Put my name into. I didn't mean to start.
Okay. Long
I have a
meeting.
motion to approve the BHS band and choir trip to Orlando, Florida in April of 2025.
So moved. Yeah.
Thank you, Rhea and Diana. Is there any more questions or comments on this? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstaining?
I will abstain.
All right, on to routine business approval of minutes. Do we have a motion, please, to approve the minutes of the April 3rd, 2024 Board of Education business meeting?
So
Second. Thank you, Ben, Ashley. Do we have any questions, comments, or edits on these minutes? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
hello.
Anyone opposed or abstaining? Carries. And now can we please have a motion to approve the minutes of the April 12th, 2024 Board of Education special meeting? Thank you. Any questions, comments, or edits on these minutes? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed or abstaining? Motion passes as well. On to Board of Ed committee reports and curriculum.
Hi, can you hear me? Okay. I'll be very quick because Monica's going to cover a lot of what we talked about. We were presented with a new course for grade 6 music survey. That was quite interesting. There was also an update on the bookworms and EL, which I know Monica's going to talk about in more depth later. She talked about the pilot with the bookworms and how well that's going. There's also going to be curriculum work in reading, music, world language, and high school health this summer. And we also had an update on the new teacher evaluation program that they're working on and getting some feedback from the teachers on that. Also, 8 students began testing for the seal of biliteracy. So that was all.
Thank you very much. On to finance.
We met yesterday and, we are 71%, 71% expended compared with last year at 73%. And, Superintendent Heck will explain everything else in detail,
Thank you.
including special education's ever-changing landscape.
You got it. Thank you. All right, so we have some transfers. One is a reclassification to purchase a touchscreen Chromebook for an IEP, a reclass to cover replacement nameplates for the Board of Education, transfer from speech and language to special education to cover instructional supplies, the same from psychological services and social work. Transfer from social studies to FCS to cover shortfalls in repairs and maintenance and travel at the high school. The purchase of the 6 VSonic boards, which you all approved last month. A reclass to, for the Parent Square conversion for the BPS website. We are already working on a changeover to a new website, which we will be going live with this summer. We already have Parent Square, which is our new communication tool. So we are shifting to Parent Square and a brand new website. It will all integrate fully together. So we needed them on board right now so that we can transfer over the background of what we have going on in the background of our current one to the new one, so that when we can then work in the new one to fix it, make it better, and be ready for a rollout. So that's what that's about. Transfer from building administration to science to cover the cost of shipping worms. Very important, dissecting worms, very fun. And lastly, shortfall for the BCS Chromebook replacement using savings from the VSonic boards, which I'm going to talk about that Chromebook replacement in a minute. So could we maybe just do these first, and then I can tell you a little bit more about the Chromebook replacements in a minute. Well, in a few minutes, actually.
We have a motion to approve the April transfers.
I'll make a motion to approve the April transfers.
I'll second.
Ben and Maria, does anyone have any questions or comments on any of these?
If I could just call to the board's attention to that we actualize some more savings in salaries and benefits for positions that we've still not been able to fill. There will be additional actualized savings by the time we get to the end of the year, but we still got to hang on to all of our sub money and the remaining positions, because who knows, we may be able to get somebody. So I just throw that out there to your attention, and that's all I have for finance.
Does anyone have any questions or comments on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And do that already, right?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstaining? All right, onto PTA. I don't see Lindsay here this evening, and I did not ask, so. We'll move on to BHS student representative support.
Okay.
What? Or was it?
On Friday, May 3rd, Bolton High School juniors and seniors had their prom at St. Clement's Castle. Everyone loved the location and food was delicious. The students danced the night away. And from May 6th to the 10th, students celebrated Teacher Appreciation Week. Students made cards and posters to thank the Bolton High School staff for all that they do. They also got breakfast this morning. From May 6th to the 16th, Bolton students have their AP exams. Students have been studying in preparation for their AP tests. And the spring sports season is well underway. The Bolton baseball team is 3-10, the softball team is 4-9, and the tennis team is 5-5. In addition, the track and field teams are doing excellent as usual. Recently, 2 school records have been broken, with Grace Osborne jumping 8 feet 8 inches in the girls pole vault, and Shepard Livingston breaking the men's 3,200 meter record. And the Latin class had multiple extracurricular activities, with 5 students taking a trip to Italy the week prior to April break. And more recently, a majority of Latin students visited Holiday Hill for the annual Latin Day. And the event was a lot of fun, with students having opportunities to broaden their proficiency in Latin and Roman culture. And I'm also going to be introducing Grace Osborne as the new Board of Ed representative.
For next
So,
year.
Yeah. for next year.
Congratulations, Grace. And welcome aboard, Grace. We're excited to have you, Grace. And Erin, we're gonna miss you very much, but I know you got studying or something else to do,
Oh,
so.
yeah.
All right, good night.
Good night.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, community meeting reports. Does anyone have anything to report on?
I attended the April Bolton Scholarship Fund meeting. Applications are now closed on, well, the deadline is now closed for scholarship applications. The board did agree to extend the deadline slightly from May 1st to May 5th to help students who might not have gotten all of the information in time to get the application in. I'm happy to report that the work of the guidance department, particularly Mr. Santi and also Mr. Maselli. Thank you for all of your efforts to get so many kids from this graduating class to apply. We had the highest percentage ever of
All right.
PHS seniors apply. So
That's great.
it's great to see. And scholarship announcements will be announced at graduation as usual, I believe.
That's the plan, Mr. Maselli, correct?
What's the plan?
Scholarships at graduation.
Oh, yes, I'm gonna talk about that. Sorry, I didn't hear you over the fan. but
Yes, I know,
100%.
I knew that. That's why I was projecting.
Yes, thank you.
I'd also call out from a finance standpoint, we had our public hearing, so that was a big deal. Presented the budget, lots of questions, I'd say decent attendance this year.
Mhm.
So we'll see where it goes. The referendum is later this month.
Tuesday, 21st, voting all day.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. So please encourage your friends to vote. That's my plug.
I gotta get an absentee ballot.
Get on that.
Is there anyone else? I think that's all. Now turn things over to the superintendent for tonight's superintendent of schools report.
All right. So I am going to turn it over to Director of Teaching and Learning, Monica DeLeo Casper, and members of our PDEC committee, Dan Ayer, Jen Carvalho, and Kelly Bear, who are going to make a presentation about our new T-Val plan. Come on up, gang. All right, hang on a sec. We're having technical difficulties. Good job.
Before we get started, I do want to thank everyone who served on this committee. Director of Special Education and HR, Director Beth Goldsnyder, Principal Daryl Giard, from Bolton Center School, Kelly Bear, who's here with us tonight, Rebecca Richard, Alicia Rose, and from Bolton High School, Dan Ayer, Jennifer Carvalho, both here as well, and Colin Dennis. So last year, we sort of knew that this was coming. There was a timeline and there were new proposed guidelines from the Educator Evaluation and Support Council, but we knew it was coming because the Connecticut Association of Public School Superintendents was also a force behind this as well. So they set up for PDEC evaluation committees across Connecticut. Of course, they set up all of those meetings in the summer when most teachers aren't available. And they set up meetings for training PDECs, evaluation of teachers, and evaluations of leaders. So Principal Giard and I attended a number of those trainings. and I was able to be there in the summer. So that was helpful, but I think that it would have been on part of the state a little bit better if they pushed it out at the very, very start of the school year. But we were looking for guidance because we were already having meetings looking at the plan that we had currently had at the time, and knew that we had to focus that a little bit. So this sort of gave a push to that. And a number of districts are contracting with various organizations, and we contracted with Tepper and Flynn LLC, and they have been working with Connecticut schools for years. So a lot of their publications, which some of the teachers out here will start to refer to briefly, there was a strong focus on effective feedback and how that aligns with the CCT, the Connecticut Core of Teaching. This is the set of standards that we decided to stay with. They are very well done. They are a nice streamlined version that I think is aligned with the Danielson frameworks, which are another set of frameworks very commonly used in evaluation programs. And I think that everyone was comfortable with those, and they were very well-established standards that were going to be accepted by the guidelines. On September 14th, they did create official guidelines that every district was to follow. Those guidelines, which we'll go over quickly, involved non-negotiable items that had to be a part of your plan and items that were considered best practices. And then in February, they did release the Model Connecticut Leader and Educator Evaluation and Support Plan. So what we're going to talk about tonight is essentially any adjustments that we had made to the model plan for educators. So you're aware, we are adopting the plan for leaders in its entirety, the model plan. I think that we are a close group. We have good relationships among us, and we think that feedback model, we're going to be, we're fine adopting it as is for the state. These were the guiding documents that were put out, guidelines on the left and the support plans to the right. They also have some sample documents in those. Those are readily available online. And here were the guidelines. We had to be able to allow for differentiation of roles. And what that means is differentiation among different positions. So guidance counselors, social workers, psychologists, first-year teachers, in addition to veteran teachers who were joining us from other districts who were veteran teachers who didn't necessarily have to be treated like a first-year teacher because they had extensive experience. It was to simplify and reduce the burden, not only of extensive paperwork that you can easily get buried in, but also there were allowances there for brand new teachers. Brand new teachers have to go through the new teacher induction process. They have 5 papers or 4 papers and 1 sort of scenario-based discussion. And they have to do that over 2 years. And it's pretty significant. They're meeting with their mentors. And in the old plan, you could not bring those 2 things together. This allows for that for new teachers. So it streamlines the process for them as well. We're focusing on what matters, high leverage strategies, feedback, and student outcomes, essentially. Connecting to best practices, focused on the whole child, focusing on educator growth and agency. So professional learning is a cornerstone of all of this. Meaningful connections, we are aligning it primarily with our strategic plan and our transferable skills in the portrait of a graduate. And that feedback is specific and aligned with that. And the non-negotiables, we had to have them on, we have the standards, we have the CCT. Again, the differentiation of roles, it needed to be an ongoing cyclical process of feedback that was meaningful, not just checking a box. And we had to tie any rubrics and evidence guides to established standards. And teachers have to provide evidence and artifacts of their progression toward their goals. And we had to establish tiers of support that was in place. We had a corrected support plan. We just needed to refine it a little bit. We did pull that from the model plan as well. And it had to be mutually agreed upon by the PDEC. The teachers will speak to the work that was done in PDEC, and I appreciate all of their patience and commitment and dedication and wrangling me in when I was going in 47 different directions. So I really do appreciate that. And they're laughing because they know it's true. Because sometimes I'm thinking about all the possible things and got to rein it in. So but these were the best practices, single point competency, and we'll talk a little bit about what changes there, aligning with district goals, which we just spoke to, reflective process and outline for PDEC operations that includes how we're going to meet and solve issues. And that's something that we're going to refine as we go along with. So I'm going to turn it over, I believe, to Mr. Aaron.
Yeah, just quickly, these were the two main resources that we used as PDEC. We had a series of workshops that we went to with Patrick Flynn, who was the author of these two books, one of the authors, and got to spend a lot of time analyzing the information in the books. There's a lot of research, really decades of research into the best practices in teacher evaluation, or as Patrick Flynn called it, he likes to refer to it as performance management, because it's really just about helping teachers grow and helping them be more successful in providing the students the learning experience that they need. So we spent a lot of time together going through these books, discussing our philosophy and our priorities about what needed to change and what we wanted to keep the same with our plan. And so Jen and Kelly are going to talk about those two aspects next.
Great. So some of the pivotal changes to the new plan, as Monica mentioned, it's really focused on quality feedback and getting away from just the numbers. So you'll see the first two changes in our plan is, number one, we don't have defined percentages in terms of how we evaluate a teacher. Our current plan places 40% on one aspect, 10% on surveys, and it's very, very, very structured. This allows, by removing those percentages, it allows for more flexibility to really meet the needs of all the different educators and their roles. So we're still looking at classroom observations, and we're still going to use survey data. We're just not tied to, holding that to a specific percentage.
And Jen, if I could, I just want to remind the board that those percentages were not Bolton's creation.
Oh, no.
Those
No.
were the State Department of Education and the State Board of Ed's creation that we all had to live by and within those confines, hence the push to make
Sometimes it
changes,
didn't work.
because
Right.
it just really was not an effective method.
Not at all.
Sorry,
So we
thank
are
you.
very happy with that change to give us
Yes,
a little
we
bit more
are.
flexibility.
Mhm.
The other number change is that our current system, again, as dictated by the previous state guidelines, was everyone was graded on a 1 to 4 scoring system. So every aspect of your evaluation, you earned a 1, 2, 3, or 4. Those numbers have now gone away, with again the focus being on growth and using single point rubrics, which looks at what is considered competent for this particular skill area that we're looking to develop in teachers, and assessing what's going well, where do we maybe need a little bit more support, how can we as the administrators, the evaluators will look at how can they support teachers to better grow in those different domains within those indicators. So again, it gets the focus away from what am I earning for a score to how can I grow? What do I need to do differently? Which is really the key if we're looking at a growth model. So very happy with that change as well. Another change, our goals right now are 1-year goals and 1-year goal only. And the next year you have to come up with something different. And for some goals, that just really isn't the best practice. Some goals are really 2-year goals, maybe 3-year goals. So this gives us the flexibility that depending on the educator's goal, they can have a little bit more room to really dive into it and spend more than just the year before being told you need to pick a new goal for the following year. It does include more formative observations for our veteran staff, which means administrators in the classroom a little bit more frequently giving more regular feedback of an informal nature. Again, it's not a 1, 2, 3, 4 on your observation. It's about seeing what's working well. Teachers being able to ask, can you come to Monica? Can you come to my room? I'm struggling with this aspect. I would love some feedback on how I can improve with classroom management or with assessment practices. So it does include that in our plan. And the last major change is, once again, really focusing on that feedback and how we can tie in professional learning with that feedback to really support and help educators grow, rather than just assigning a 1, 2, 3, or 4. So Kelly's up next with what we're keeping.
Okay, so the plan is going to stay the same in the sense that all the new teacher observations, they still have 2 formal, 1 informal, and a review of practice. In addition, they are going to have a primary and a secondary evaluator. All evaluators are still going to meet 3 times a year and discuss their progress. And then we will still be using a talent management system to house all the data and the progress and the notes.
So our next steps, that we want to work on next year, so what we're looking for is approval of the CHIPS and the plan,
Tonight.
for tonight. But next year, there are a couple of things that we want to work on currently. The CCT for effective service delivery, which is what the rubric is that we used for guidance counselors, social workers, psychologists, and in some cases, a library media specialist, or, you know, an OT or PT or speech pathologist, depending on what their role is and how they're employed by the district. It is not as specific as we would like to their role. So we would like to allow them some time to work on a rubric based on these standards next year. Exploring the development, one of the things that came up with the teacher conversations and that both building administrators are doing is they've started developing this culture of peer observations and peer walkthroughs and people being comfortable with someone saying, you know, I'd really like to observe this because I hear that you are really great at transitions in your classroom. Or I really kind of maybe struggling with this, can I go observe that? Or sometimes it's just looking at someone in your department or a different department and noticing some strengths that they have that you may not have anticipated. So we would like to create the peer walkthrough and sort of make it a little bit more official. It would be non-evaluative because peers are not going to evaluate peers, but it would just be a part of the process. Did you participate in this part of the process? And revising the plan as needed. We know that for the first year, there are things we could not have anticipated. There are things we may not plan for. I tried doing a quick observation with one of the new forms, and right out of the gate, I was like, wait, I need more space for some extra notes. So I know we want to add some of that, you know, into the process. And our current talent management system, we use ProTracks. It is really about checking boxes and clicking a lot, and it's not about real narrative feedback that seems like it has any meaning at all. So we are working on adjusting that so that this is all documented, it is all kept somewhere, but it is also going to be a little bit more
Reflective of the work. we're going to
reflective
be
and
doing.
realistic of where we want teachers to head and how we want them to look at how they're having an impact on students.
Great.
So we'll be coming back to you this time next year with likely some adjustments to the plan.
Thank you.
Yes, any
Questions for our group?
questions?
Sure. So what exactly does the feedback look like? I think I saw a form, you know, in the materials. Is it a lot of written, where it's pages and pages of written feedback? Is it,
It's
pretty easy and concise?
It's pretty easy and concise, and it's also based on the teacher's goal, ideally. It doesn't mean that if you see something not connected to the goal that maybe goes awry, that you might want to ask a question about, you certainly could. Or if you see something that's particularly excellent, that is not specifically related to the goal, you can still note that as well. And there is room for teachers to include that if they want to upload something that they're particularly proud of, that maybe you just didn't happen to walk in that day. And they want that as part of that record, they can. The cycle right now, as it stands, really is, if you look at it, it's like 2 cycles a year. So they're setting their goals in the beginning. There's a deadline of October. We are scheduled for 2 formative or reviews of practice. If you're a veteran teacher, if you're a new teacher, you're gonna have one of your formals at that time. Then there's going to be a mid-year check-in to look at progress toward what your plan is for the year. So if you have a 2-year goal, you still have to have an end point at the end of the school year. You have to have some checkpoints of, this is where we are going to be by mid-year. This is where we're going to be by the end of this school year. So just because it's a 2-year goal doesn't mean that there's no benchmark and there's no goal to meet. It's just not finalized for 2 years.
Did that answer
That
your
makes
question?
sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Okay.
from a time standpoint, are we expecting it's gonna take more time at, you know, on these evaluators where?
We're all nervous about it.
Yeah.
I'm nervous, everybody's nervous about it. But they're shorter as opposed to, like a new teacher would have a full in-class observation. This is more of a formative, a little bit longer than a walkthrough. and the feedback is pretty concise.
But I'll just offer, the last time we did this,
Yeah.
I don't know, guys, what, 12 years ago,
2012.
11, right? A long
Yes.
time ago, but it was right when I first got here. Welcome. It's great. Right? We had a lot of fun, didn't we? Yes, we did. But we were nervous then, you know, it was a whole change. We were like, oh my God, we're never, and we've had it since 2012. We figured it out. And I think the same will be true. And if we have to tweak it, we'll work
We will.
together with PDEC and we'll tweak it. So, right, it's just a very collaborative effort. Wouldn't you guys agree?
And I would say, switching our data management, talent management, thank you.
We'll make it big
System, I
difference.
think will alleviate some of that burden as well, because right
Agree.
now, from the teacher perspective, a lot of our side of the evaluation is spent, where do I click on this?
Yeah, it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
And it's just as bad on our end, trying to kind of. look at
Equally as
everything.
bad. But there were no really good systems
Mhm.
because of what they had put into place the last time, the 1, 2, 3, 4, the rubric, this, that, and everything else, and all the percentages. You had to have like a, you know, some kind of mathematical formula in there to calculate everything, so.
This feedback is so important, but it can become so onerous
Mhm.
at the same time.
And I think this is a good start to a happy medium, because I think pre-2012, it was, I'm gonna go in and do an observation and check the box, and there was no goal setting. During that 2012 shift, it was observation plus the goal setting, but still kind of that same kind of just checking the box, and it was like, all right, let's just get this, we're gonna set it up and get it done and fulfill our obligation. And this is swinging a little bit back to that narrative, the collegial professional conversations aligned also with a goal, which I would argue is probably the most important thing, looking at what your plans are for your professional learning. I mean, it goes along with the new teacher, the team
Well,
practice, your impact
Plus,
on
it's
practice.
also
Yeah.
tied to the district and school goals, which
Yes.
we've been trying to do all along, and finally the state is with us. Just saying, right? In having it all be under one umbrella and tied together. Are there other questions?
I have a question, because I know I'm very familiar with just, checking off the boxes. And I'm happy to hear that you're adding like the goals now and putting more meat to the bone.
Well, we had goals before, but
But just more
Yeah.
tangible ones that
Mhm.
even seem to. So of course the goal is amazing and all that, but I think it lies a lot in the execution strategy to make that actually a reality. So I'm curious, you mentioned there was a mid-year review. Is there any ongoing cadences, I would assume, in between that to measure the progress, like to measure, is there any KPIs being made on that?
They're the regular formative observations that are happening in between your goal setting to your mid-year. And then if something arises from that in our document, either party can call a meeting.
I was just curious, because mid-year is when you're seeing progress, but is there anything before mid-year so that you are kind of just increasing your chances of ensuring that you're reaching those benchmarks?
Yes, I think because the goal setting doesn't have to be finalized until mid-October. So you have a fair idea of your universal screeners and
your data.
your
box.
assessments, your data that's there currently. And you've spent some time working with your students so you can make a specific and relevant goal. But believe it or not, there's not a lot of time in between that date and the
Mid-year.
mid-year. So our deadline's February 15th, but I think most of us try to get that in by January. So it's October 15th to like right around midterms time. So it's not a ton of time.
Yeah.
So that is a little bit of a concern because it is a little bit tight.
It is.
But that there's some formative evaluation happening between that.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So a lot of times in a post-conference, after a formative observation, the conversation will go towards performance and practice, which is another part of our evaluation plan, and to their goals. So they'll say, I know you didn't see it in this lesson, but in terms of my goals, the conversation a lot of times in the post-conference for an evaluation or an observation goes into that, to your point.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Totally out of curiosity, because I'm also, trying to revamp the evaluation system for my nonprofit social workers.
Huh.
What's an example of a multi-year goal, since it's the first time we're not gonna have just year-ending goals?
Well, a really good example, which is going to probably come up a little bit later, is our elementary teachers. Our K-6 teachers have a lot of work coming up with the new program.
And they need to look at some of their assessments and how those are going to align, especially grades 3 to 6, as they're integrating the interim assessment blocks that are aligned with SBAC and looking at where students need additional support. So they may want to look at how they're analyzing their assessment data through the PLC process. And I think that a year going through that is
Not
not
enough.
quite enough. So, yeah, I think it comes down to how they're going to look at the data. And I think what happened before, when you only had a year, it's human nature to kind of play it safe a little. Like, I'm just gonna look at this one metric because I know it's clean and it's gonna give me something, but you didn't have the luxury of being able to really dig into it.
But also like Bolton has small class sizes
Mhm.
year to year, so there could be a lot of small sample size noise in one year and not
Mhm.
another year. So-
Right,
Mhm, correct.
absolutely.
Yep.
Can I just say, we run into that, especially like with our school psychologists and our social workers, when they're trying to do their goals, because they're working with very small groups, like a counseling group or a social skills group. So to your point, like it is a very small sample. But sometimes they'll do 2-year goals. Right now, they're currently, I would have had 2 years goals, if they need to, because of the groups that they're working with, because you don't really see the progress sometimes in 1 year. So they're gonna be working a lot of times with some of the same groups of kids. So they'll be working on, rubrics for the kids to develop and assessing or maybe a new program that they're implementing. So we have played a little bit with the SES, group, part of the, plan.
Thank you for the clarity.
Anybody else? So we need a motion because it has to be approved by the Board of Ed so we can send it to the state. After we clean up all our fonts and page numbers and all that,
Yeah,
but that's
please ignore
coming.
the wonky
but-
formatting.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
not
yeah,
formatted
yeah,
yet.
yeah.
Apologies.
Sorry.
We have a motion, please, to approve the Leader and Educator Professional Growth Evaluation and Support Plan. Any other questions or comments?
No, thank you for that presentation.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstaining? All right.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you guys very much. Appreciate it. Good job. That was a heavy lift this year, so thank you to everyone who was on the committee, please. Now on to multi-tiered system of supports.
A lot of us
I know.
bouncing around a little bit.
All right. Just give 1 second so we can pull up the, all right. So MTSS, which you've heard us talk about before, stands for Multi-Tiered System of Supports. I just want to remind the board that we shared at the beginning of the year when we rolled out the school goals that BPS would be shifting to MTSS approach in collaboration with an outside consultant as part of our school improvement plans. MTSS focuses on aligning academic, behavioral, and social emotional learning in a fully integrated system of support for the benefit of all students. It aligns resources, initiatives, and encompasses both SRBI and PBIS to systematically support students. Differentiates supports for students to promote equitable access and outcomes among all student groups. It emphasizes positive school culture and climate at all levels. And it continues to use data to inform decisions focused on student growth. The state has also moved to an MTSS approach. So this isn't just unique to Bolton, but this is how our approach is rolling out. Teachers and administrators work collaboratively during PLCs, PD days, staff meetings, 4th Tuesdays, and other regularly occurring meetings to engage and use evidence-based practices and data-driven decision-making to maximize student outcomes. Now I'm going to turn it over to the rest of the team for the rest of the presentation.
So, the Bolton Public Schools Tiers of Academic Support, just so that I know that many of you may already remember from some of the SRBI work, but
Tier 1 is what is covered and what represents 80% of our students. It's high quality instruction. It's our core curriculum that's research-based. Educators are continually reviewing their practices, and we have regular progress monitoring. We have universal screens, progress monitoring tools, and assessments throughout. If we see that a student is struggling or needs a little bit of extra support or some services, then there is more targeted instruction in Tier 2. Keep in mind that a student that is receiving Tier 2 supports is still in Tier 1 instruction. It is supplemental to the core instruction. It's designed to accelerate in reading or math. There's frequent progress monitoring, and it's a few times a week for approximately 20 minutes a session, generally by the classroom teacher. So this might be teachers working in centers, teachers working in small groups that are focused on what targeted skills are for the students. If a student then is still maybe struggling, needs something a little bit more intense, they may move into Tier 3, which is individualized instruction for students who have not been responding. Again, they're still in the core, they're still participating in that. And within the core from the teacher, they're also getting some support, except in Tier 3, it would be delivered in small groups or individually. This is a place where we may use our reading or math specialists. Frequent progress monitoring, and if students do not respond at that point, they may be referred for special education evaluation. Because if they're basically looking at every intervention that we can give them, and that does not appear to be meeting their needs, then we recognize that there may be more that they need. So that is 5 times a week, so approximately 30 minutes a session by specialists, and that is usually done outside of the, generally done outside of the core program.
Okay. Social, emotional, and behavioral supports. Just want to start with a little disclaimer first that we didn't just start supporting kids because of MTSS or SRBI or even SEL, social emotional learning, which was the big key phrase during the pandemic and after the pandemic. We in Bolton have been supporting the social, emotional, and behavioral needs of students. Well, I've been here for 12 years, and it was at least started, it was in place at some level when we arrived, but we've just gotten stronger since then. So there's a lot in place and has been a lot in place for supporting kids with these needs. So I just wanted to give a little bit of a history on that. So some of the supports include the PBIS components that are established in, they call it something else in the high school, caring climate and culture, or climate and culture committee, PBIS at the center school, and those are things such as establishing positive connections, relationships, using behavior expectations matrix in the classroom and school-wide, and I think we'll talk about that a little bit later on. Planning school-wide events, we talked about some of those school-wide events earlier. There's a lot of events going on to boost morale for kids and for staff, and using a data-driven approach. Also, the supports will targeted or individualized approach when necessary. So if a classroom approach isn't working and we have a group of children or an individual child who needs more specialized supports, we're able to do that, and we're doing that on a regular basis. The social, emotional, behavioral supports are also, they're always a focus of the school leadership teams. Both schools have leadership teams, and they're captured in the school plans. The school plans each have goals, and the learning of social, emotional, behavioral supports and skills are found under all of those goals in the plans. And the plans were talked about, I think, at the October meeting, so they're all kind of defined there a little bit. I won't bore you by reading all those. We have included professional learning for educators. All staff has had PD, professional development on trauma-informed practices. So we started first with the special ed department and related services. And we did a full day with a specialist on that training. And then we did training for administrators, and we've had 2 sessions for all school staff. So we not only did the PD, but we're using the information that we learned and that we're now implementing in our daily practices. When we develop behavior plans, classroom plans, or having conversations with kids, we keep those things in mind, because if there is a way
Bus
to.
plans too.
And bus plans, right? Everything we do, we have to think about those practices. So we're using them on a regular basis.
And the supports will look a lot different at different levels, right? What you see in preschool and kindergarten is definitely not what you're gonna see at middle school or high school. So it really varies from level to level. So some of our supports, focus on kids with maybe some more behavioral challenges. I don't like to call them behavior problems, but behavioral challenges. And these can be monitored by certified staff and also non-certified. We'll sometimes have paraprofessionals who are monitoring behavior plans and implementing the plans. Some of these things, again, are PBIS, either classroom or school-wide systems. We call them CICO, check-in and check-out. And we have those established for many kids who kind of just maybe need to check in with somebody in the morning to see how their day is going. How did things start off on the bus? How did things go at home? Was there anything that we need to get figured out for the day? Do you have your planner? Things like that. Many kids have check-in and check-out, and it can look different for every single kid. Behavior support plans, we have some classroom plans that teachers will write. We can have the school psychologist or social worker help with some of the behavior plans. And then when it gets to the much higher level, that's usually our behavior analyst who is collaborating with staff to develop a plan. So we have those in place for kids right now. We also have, Daryl and I were just in a classroom the other day. We walked in just to check in on some kids and some teachers, and we had kids coming up and showing us their point sheets. So we have kids who are regularly getting point sheets during the day for different things. Some may be for being in their space, right? Not eloping, work completion. So they have individual point sheets, and they're getting point sheets signed by staff. And then there, of course, is always a carrot first, a point sheet, right? So there's something, and our middle school boys usually like it's basketball at the end of the day. So they get to go in the gym for a set amount of basketball. So some kids don't want basketball, maybe they want to get a popsicle. So we really individualize it to what the kids will work for. We also have attendance contracts, and we monitor those. There are contracts at both schools. Christine has done a really unbelievable job at the high school of doing contracts. We have kids who we have had several contracts in place for them, right? So it's a contract for the kids, and the parents are well aware of those contracts too. So, it's really very individualized to the student. But we take in circumstances, right? We're not just saying because you have absences, you're in a contract. We need to consider the reason for the absences and, what we can do to try to get kids in school. But we work really hard to give kids incentives to come to school. So again, additional incentives, again, whatever we can do to get kids here. And then social skills groups, we have many groups that go on, and those are either determined by classroom teachers or maybe the BCBA, or if a kid is, if Daryl and I are always fighting on the playground or on the bus, maybe it's time to pull us in and get us some social skills training. So we have, our school counselors will do training in social skills lessons with kids. We do, they call it lunch bunch sometimes. So that happens on an ongoing basis. And then kids at both schools have been assigned mentors. And sometimes that's a really, really good thing that kids love to have that. As Kristen said earlier about Christine at the high school, that safe person to go to. They really like having that person they can connect with and share things with. So mentors are a really big thing that we've found success with some kids. It doesn't work for everybody. That's really individualized.
I have the next slide, but real quick, the point sheet, I have some students who 4 or 5 times a day will be like, here's my point sheet, you gotta pay attention to the lesson. I'll check that for the class.
Oh, wait, can I just jump in? I want to just add 2 more things. I forgot to look at my notes, sorry. The other thing that we've been doing for many years is we do have a social skills curriculum. We have second step at the center school, and that is K through grade 8. Classroom teachers are now doing it with K through 5, because it seemed to make more sense for the classroom teachers to do those skills with kids on a daily basis, because they can generalize the skills. And then we have our support staff, social worker, school counselor, and psychologists who do the social skills curriculum at the middle school. And we used a social skills curriculum, but we also bring other things in. So if there's an ongoing problem, I don't know, the 8th grade kids are just not being nice to each other in the cafeteria, we can bring some of those issues and role playing into a social skills lesson to make it meaningful, depending on, what's really happening in real life. So we do that. We also have developed a risk assessment, a suicide risk assessment, with my special ed, my student support team, my counseling team. So it's using research-based tools, and we have a
an assessment that we go through if a child either lets an adult know that they're at risk for suicide, or we see a risk factor, or we sometimes get calls from parents saying, can you check in with Johnny? You know, he said something on the way out, or last night he said something. So we check in the morning, and we have an assessment, a risk assessment we run through. Teachers are also well informed, and we usually talk at the beginning of the year at a staff meeting about some things that may cause you to suspect that their child is at risk for maybe suicide. English teachers, I have to say, are phenomenal for finding things in writing, right? When kids write papers, we often will have a teacher, not always, but you know, an English teacher or a teacher say, hey, this is a little questionable. I think I need to show this to an administrator or to the school psychologist so that we can kind of have a further conversation. And we have gotten some really good information. So it is always see something, say something, and our staff is really good at doing that.
Yeah, and just to emphasize the work that Beth's team has done, you might have we have had English teachers home at 8 o'clock at night, grading a piece of student work, find something alarming, it does not wait to the next day.
Correct.
There is a system in place to deal with that even after hours. And that's something that we're pretty proud of.
Thanks. The other thing that we have is a threat assessment that we have worked on as well. And we started with my team, and then we had the building administrators help us as well. And that's really more, not so much suicide, but a risk if somebody came in and said, I'm gonna shoot up the school, or I'm gonna blow up the school or something like that. So we have a whole threat assessment that again is research-based, and we've worked really hard and we've put a lot of work into it. And that gives us really good information. It's not done alone. Neither the suicide risk assessment or the threat assessment are done in isolation. It's always, the risk assessment is usually almost 2 people at least. And the threat assessment is done by a team, and it's administrators who are leading that. It's not the counselors who are leading that, but they may, you know, be working with us with the kids. So we have a lot in place. Sorry.
So to continue some of the conversation about behavior and how we support students, during this school year specifically, we had our BCBA, which is district-wide, our board certified behavior analysts work with all staff in December and January to go through, if you students struggling in the classroom, what is that first level of support called tier 1? So I'll read it off the slide. The classroom teacher has a behavioral concern. They target the behavior of a concern with an intervention, sticker chart, point sheet that we mentioned earlier, other incentives for 4 to 6 weeks while tracking that data. So is it working? So a lot of students do respond to more of an incentive than, let's say, a consequence or a punishment. So that's been a big shift with that PBS as well. Tier 2, if the behavior continues, the classroom teacher will bring up the concern at the MTSS meeting, where they also talk about academic concerns in reading and math. With the behavioral staff being invited to that meeting, behavioral staff analyzes the data to craft goals specific to that student and modifies interventions used. Data is collected for another 4 to 6 weeks, so it's a very ongoing, regular, methodical process. After the data is monitored, students can be exited because maybe there's success and they don't need to no longer be in that level of intervention, or they can move to a more intense level from tier 2 to tier 3, or go from 3 to 2. So it's kind of a fluid process looking at the data to help drive those decisions. I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Bear, who is our interim assistant principal, because Mrs. Keller, her is out on maternity leave.
And
also our
waiting to
instructional
have that
coach.
baby any day. Yes, go right ahead.
So one thing that I didn't hear you talk about is a functional behavior assessment. So really analyzing the function of behaviors. Who does that?
That's usually, that would be done, well, it's a team approach, but it's usually led by the BCBA.
And is that, we have a BCBA?
We do, we have a district-wide, full-time BCBA. We've had her for a number of years.
Yeah.
Well, we've had a BCBA,
Yeah.
not her now, but
Right.
we've had one for years. We brought one on years ago. Yeah, and she will lead the team. Also, we have the high school, the school psychologist can lead a team through an FBA. They may do like the legwork and then use the BCBA as a consult if we have questions about a behavior. So our school psychologist can do it, and the BCBA usually gets involved for the more complex cases, or again, she'll be a consult for any questions that the psychologists have, the teams have. she'll come to PPTs if we need to, or the MTSS meetings and kind of help us break down the behaviors a little bit.
Right. Okay, so this slide covers really the K-5 MTSS meetings. And so if a student is a year behind, they will go into tier 3. And if a student is less than a year behind, they will go into tier 2, instruction in reading or math. These MTSS goals are formed as a complete team with the administrators, class of teachers, specialists, and any appropriate support staff that they invite that Beth and Daryl have spoken about. And the progress is monitored throughout the cycle. And again, we meet every 6 to 8 weeks. We talk about every single student that's in tier 2 or tier 3 intervention. And then we decide what are the next steps. Can this student be exited from tier 2 and go back into tier 1 for the classroom? Do they have to move on from tier 2 to tier 3? Or are they staying where they are? Are they making progress with the goal that they have, and do they need a new one? Again, if teachers have the behavioral or OT or PT or speech concerns, they will bring those specialists to the meeting and we'll discuss what needs to be in place for them. And then obviously parents are communicated with throughout the cycles. Notes are sent home every single cycle at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year. And then on this next slide, here are charts showing the number of students receiving tier 2 and tier 3 intervention over the last 3 years. And tier 2 and tier 3 are grouped because it's such a fluid process of the students moving sometimes from tier 2 to tier 1, then maybe back into tier 2 or going to tier 3 for a little. So it's really based on how the students are progressing and what skills we need to target.
MTSS at the middle school, we're working with a consultant to kind of look at how we're doing MTSS in K-5, 6 to 8 at the high school, because it does look a little different at each level. Some current MTSS supports that we have at the middle school level is we use our When I Need Now at study hall time. Homework club is a good portion of students. That's kind of fluid. Who needs support right now? I'll talk to parents and like, oh yeah, I want them to go. We have 2 instructors providing support at homework club. Student-led conferences, all the students in middle school, you've heard me talk about in previous Board of Ed meetings, are part of what's called a crew, and it could be any of the middle school teachers, specialist teachers, and I had a crew myself, so 10 students that we work with throughout the year, about 12 to 15 meetings, and then they present in the spring. Push-in support, reading and math support, and then occasionally a middle school student may receive services from a specialist from K-5 if the need meets their skill set with an interventionist. Analysis of student data throughout the year, so Smarter Balance, those IABs that Monica mentioned earlier, iReady and classroom assessments all drive that level of support. And during this school year, with the work of the consultant, we put together a school-wide or a middle school school-wide team, but we've been talking a lot about 6 to 8 specifically because we really wanted to grow that. Utilizing win periods, continuing to utilize win periods for that to receive academic support in reading and math. Tier 2 support, as you heard earlier, is going to be provided by the classroom teachers. Data will be used to identify common skill deficits to bring students together with the teachers, because that's the key thing. You can't have 4 students with 4 different needs. You really have to identify a common skill deficit to work with the students. Regular progress monitoring of the goals. And we're currently in the process at the middle school level of piloting a cycle for the 24-25 school year. So they're actually kicking it off next week. So the students have been prepped. I'm going to be talking about it with all the students during town hall meetings. But the prep for the pilot starting next week has been ongoing for the last year with the consultant that we've been working with. So it's really been a team effort to maximize the resources that we have. We are a small district, so sometimes it's like, okay, what's the best way to schedule to snag some time here, use staff here to really maximize those resources. So starting next week, we'll have, you can see the enrollment at each of the grade levels, and we've identified which students are going to be receiving support in ELA and in math. And like our science teachers are going to even be helping out to support the math area. Social studies will be supporting ELA. So the teachers have worked, formed groups, created goals, and we'll be piloting that next week.
So I'm going to
introduce real quick.
Yeah.
So Mrs. Pagani, grade 2 teacher and also K-5 ELA academic leader, and Tracy Wunsch, our K-5 social studies academic leader and grade 3 teacher.
I'm just gonna ask you to move just a little closer to the mic. Thanks.
don't mind using the.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna put that there. So, we've used a lot of acronyms tonight, so I'm just gonna define PBIS again for you. Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports. And why PBIS? It's a school-wide systems approach aimed at establishing positive student culture and individualized behavior supports necessary to create a safe and effective learning environment for all students. So that last part of the sentence is so important. That's our goal. That's why we do PBIS. And Tracy and I probably are
Founding members.
Founding members
The
and the biggest cheerleaders of PBIS. We needed our pom-poms tonight, but I'm very excited to present this because I've always been excited about PBIS at Bolton Center School. So it began in 2011 with a large committee existing of many stakeholders with the support of outside professional learning. Our training was over the course of 3 years at CREC. And it was a difficult training. It was a challenge for us to do this. We were chosen as a model school in 2015 to present at CREC because of how effective we found PBIS to be for our school. So, and I remember this professional development, we were the only pre-K to 8 school to be at this training. There were tables of schools and you had like pockets of like, oh, that's a middle school, that's an elementary school, that's a high school. And then we came to Bolton, which was a pre-K to 8th grade school. And we were like, can we do this? Can we have one model for our big school? And we did it. And it's still very effective. So we had to work hard to make the program effective for so many grades, and we put the poster up there. That's what we came up with in 2011, and we are still using that bulldog bark. And I would say if you asked any kindergartner through 8th grade tomorrow what the bulldog bark stands for, they would be able to tell you because they hear it every morning on morning announcements. So, and why is it effective? Because students know and understand what the school-wide expectations are. So here are just some components of the original PBIS model, and we still use a lot of these. Positive school community through school-wide assemblies, morning announcements, PBIS activities, the school-wide expectations that we put up there. We have a school-wide matrix, which we're going to show you. For following the BARC expectations in all areas of the building. We have grade level lessons for all areas of the building that we use at the beginning of the year and the middle of the year. Universal behavior supports and incentives for all students. Mr. GR just talked about that. We have a process and procedures for office referrals. We call them ODRs, and those office referrals are, you know, when a teacher needs that administrative help for that child, we've done what we can and we need more support, and that support is immediate and very effective for the students. Monthly PBIS meetings to monitor our progress as a school and for individual students, and pathways for collaboration between all stakeholders. And part of our training really was how can we engage the families and bring them into PBIS. So through assemblies, through our excellent PTA support, we have BCS and PBIS BARC clothing and Buster Showcase. So we're really proud to have this model grow and improve over the course of 13 years. And Tracy's going to explain what it looks like presently.
Okay, well. 13 years later, we're still doing PBIS. We do all of the things that Wendy just talked about consistently, all of us. But we've added some things, we've made some things, changed some things, we refined things a little bit because times have changed. But we have refined all the PBIS practices to reflect the present school climate and culture. We have to make sure that we're, you know, staying with the times. And we still continue to strive to build a sense of community within our pre-K school structure, which, like Wendy said, when we went to that training, they're like, you guys are like strange. Pre-K through 8, that's like, you know, very unique. How are we gonna do this? But we made it work, and it still works because we have that school structure and we have the clear behavioral expectations for all the kids. And they know. You can ask any of them what the BARC is, but you can also ask them what the expectation is for it too. like, what does that look like here? What does that look like here in different parts of the building? From some of the updates and additions that we have made, we all came up with some classroom behavioral incentives just to spice things up. We have dog bone charts, so specialists can give us dog bones if the kids, are great at their specials, and like we give them incentives if they earn 10, and then if we earn 20, and when we get filled with dog bone chart, we give a big party in our class and stuff. We do Buster Brags, which is new this year. So teachers can, or anybody in the building can write up a Buster Brag for a student, and then we submit it to Amela, and she puts it, Kelly, she puts it into the morning announcements on Fridays, and then they get their picture taken, it goes on the front board in the school. I think that's been a great incentive for the kids. They love that. They love hearing their name on the announcements. We have collaborative monthly meetings with our staff. We talk about, what we're doing now with PBIS, where we're going with it, what are the problems we might have, what things we're trying to work out. But we're always reflective in our practice. We're always looking to get it back, to make it better for the kids and to better for our whole community. We added Winter Family Night. Kelly took that on, bravo to her. But it's curriculum connections and community involvement. All the staff are there, all the parents are there. It's a crazy event, but it's really fun. And it's great to have everyone in the building. And we have ongoing professional development. The teachers, received training on from the BCBA this year about our behavior SRBI, which MTSS, which I think is great, and how to handle all different situations. And then we have the family engagement school goal to build our community. We have that goal because we want to make sure our community stays tight.
Technology, give it a second.
So Tracy and I are both part of a school leadership team, and we know firsthand the distributed leadership approach we use to encourage and implement all of these positive student culture initiatives. And it's truly a team approach, and as a result, we have many positive student culture initiatives, including there's a whole list of them. We do student council at the middle grades. We've started town hall meetings by grade level to review behavioral expectations, and those are great because it keeps those expectations alive. All the second graders will come to the gym and meet with the principal and assistant principal, and they'll talk about, what are the expectations, and they will ask teachers before the town hall meeting, what are some things that you think we should address? Maybe it's bathroom behavior, maybe it's maybe keeping the cafeteria cleaner. But that's been a great addition. The weekly Buster Brags and bulletin board. We have school spirit weeks, a lot of spirit weeks. Collaboration with PTA for school sponsored events, the art and ice cream social, the SBAC incentives and celebration, summer learning celebration, school-wide assemblies, planner lottery. The list goes on. Positive phone calls and letters home, principal for a day. All my kids want to do that. Walkathon incentives, principal and the assistant principal got slimed. Lunch groups, school dances, and Read Across America month. And I wanted to add on there, but it wouldn't let me add a bullet this morning. Morning announcements. Amela does a great job at really sharing culturally diverse books throughout the year. So those are some of the student culture initiatives that we do.
Just to tack on to what Wendy said, we continue to use our distributed leadership approach to encourage and implement all of our initiatives with staff culture because we feel like it's a team effort. Our leadership team it's diverse. I mean, it's teachers, there's specialists, it's everybody. We all have a role, but we all come together twice a month, sometimes more, and when Daryl says we have a meeting, and we talk about all the things that are happening in school and what we can do to make things better for the staff, but also for the kids. This is really ultimately all about the kids. We have the instructional leadership team, like I said, monthly good news share outside staff meetings. We started that this year. It was great. Like we started a staff meeting with, okay, like what's the good news? Like who has something good to share? We've had a lot of baby news. It's been great. A lot of baby news. Staff appreciation week this week has been fabulous. PTA has just spoiled us. Daryl spoiled us. You spoiled us. It's been awesome. Staff incentives throughout the year. Kelly does a lucky duck thing where she hides ducks around the school and we all go crazy looking for them. All for like a candy bar, but it's great. We're all very competitive. The new staff trimester meetings, so they meet every trimester with the new staff to make sure that things are going well. What can they help them with? Team mentors for the new staff. I feel like I'm a team mentor and I've always been one. I love doing that. I love working with the new teachers and I feel like that's always been very well supported in Bolton. It's just a great way for new teachers to grow and learn, and it keeps me fresh to being able to work with them. So it's great. Collegial observations, we started that this year and it's been great. The ILT team has gotten into go into different classrooms to see things like I've never seen social studies in other classrooms because I'm always teaching in my little 3rd grade classroom, and I got to go in kindergarten. It was like wow, and I went to 5th grade. It was great. I got to see all these things and all the things that I like do the budget for and order and talk about in the curriculum I write, and I'm like, oh, it's all here it is. It's wonderful. So that's been great, and I think we're going to try to get the rest of the staff to like visit other people's classrooms. I think it's really important. We do a lot of staff community team building activities. We recognize, all holidays and different appreciation weeks. We shower all our staff members with all the great things that are happening. And then we have our potluck lunches. We do a lot of food. Potluck lunches, monthly staff breakfast. And we have a snackle meeting coming up next Tuesday. And then we have this very active PTA that's always fabulous and supports us so well.
So this is the matrix that we'll quickly just talk about. This sets expectations for all areas of the building. We use it to teach our lessons at the beginning of the year and mid-year. We revisit it. And we do make changes to it periodically. It does help students understand what the behavior looks like. I know it's very tiny for you to see, but what does being kind and honest look like in a classroom? You're saying please and thank you and accepting others. And sometimes we have to stop in the middle of our instruction and address these things. Today, Mr. GR came in right in the middle of reading instruction and saw this firsthand where I had to stop and really stop the teaching and talk about empathy and how to be empathetic toward others. And it was a PBIS lesson in the middle of reading, but it had to happen. And he helped me with that too. So we are also going to post these. We had them posted a few years ago around the building, and we're going to make new posters with pictures so kids we can point to things and say, okay, you're in the bathroom. What does that look like? Are you being kind? Are you splashing the water? It's definitely, the posters are in a positive note, but it does help kids understand what it looks like in all areas.
It's also good for the staff, the new staff that we get, because when you get new staff in, they need to know how to address those things the way we do and all the common language we use. So that's been very helpful.
And we'll refer to the matrix like before an assembly. I'll say, and the expectations for an assembly is, and the kids will be able to tell you, oh, listening, respect the speaker, and go right through it. This slide is really to capture some of the data. We mentioned data many times this evening to drive the decisions that we make. Some big areas of data are attendance data. And as you can see, it has the last 3 school years. We kind of went back 3 years in each of the columns so you can get a good picture. And there's 2 columns that are broken down under attendance, 10 to 17 absences. And then I'm going to jump to just below that grid because 1 through 9 for the state of Connecticut is considered excused no matter what for any student. And it's starting at absence number 10 where you need the documentation of a doctor's note or something like that to be excused. So that's an important number. So we have the 10 through 17, that's the number of students in that given year. And you can see the date range is up through within like the last week. So we wanted to make it a fair comparison between the years. Then you can see chronically absent, which is 18 plus absences. And at the very bottom, you can see that's 10% of the school year, which is how we came up with the number of 18 to share that number with you there. And you can see, and it's not by mistake or chance that there has been an improvement, especially in the over 10. And that really comes down to the work that we do to be proactive. We have a weekly attendance meeting every Friday morning. That's myself, Director Goldsnyder, school nurse Mary Welsh, who we're gonna miss dearly. She is like the glue to the school. Mary Welsh, Assistant Principal Kelleher, and Mrs. Bear. We also have Miss Destiny, who works between the schools for that whole social worker piece. And it's a great group we come together, and Deb Marquis, our attendance secretary, so she gathers data on Thursday, gives it to us for Friday morning. We go through every student, the trends that we're seeing, what's going on. Mary can weigh in on the medical piece. Deb takes the calls in the morning for absence, so we really can look at it with a data-driven approach every Friday morning. Then from there, we make some decisions. Is it a phone call? Is it gonna be a letter home? Sometimes it's a home visit. And then sometimes it's more of that incentive base where like, well, we know the student, we know what really motivates them. We'll talk about an incentive plan. Sometimes it's over the phone. The kid hasn't been to school in a week. Well, what do you really want? They're trying to earn something. There's other times where it's been a modified schedule. Maybe it's the first period of the day. They're anxious. So we talked about maybe a later arrival, but they're still getting a full day of schooling in, and then we'll work back towards a full day. So it's really getting them back through the door to get over that hump sometimes. But those proactive attendance meetings have been very important. In the middle column of are the ODRs.
Can I just say something about the attendance if I could, please? I don't mean to interrupt, but I just also want to remind everybody that it was only recently too, that the CDC changed their protocols for attendance when you're sick. So that is also a factor that plays into those 3 years of data. So I just want to remind everybody of that as well, on top of the yeoman's effort that happens by our team. Thank you, Daryl.
The middle column is the office discipline referrals, otherwise known as ODRs. It's part of the PBIS creation from 2011. And it's been through many iterations. I was assistant principal from 2012 to 16. So I led the monthly meetings then, and now it's Mrs. Kelleher. But I did a lot of work, particularly in the ODR system, because a lot of that data drives those monthly meetings. Then we had to look at, is the ODR meeting the needs of the teachers? Is it giving us the data that we want? So there's two major categories on the ODR, which is a minor and a major, as you can see on the bottom. So minor is inappropriate language, physical contact, defiance, disruption, unkind behavior, property misuse, dishonesty, and all of these are broken down by definition that the committee went into that great level of detail to really figure out where does an offense lie so we can look at that data, area of the building, time of day, all of that information. A major is abusive language, profanity, fighting, overt defiance, overt disruption, harassment, tardy, no pass, inappropriate display of affection, cheating. So we went back and forth. Sometimes things were in a minor and you talk through with the committee, how much are we seeing this? To what grade length do we need to go with this? For the past 3 years, you can see the number of students with an ODR is the first column next to the year. Total number of ODRs, and the key number to really look at is the number right below that total number, which is when you divide it by 181 days of school, tells you the average number of ODRs we get in the office on a given day. So 3 years ago was 1.7, last year was 2.2, this year is currently 1.6. So, and that's including referrals coming off the buses. So the bus drivers as well will write up a bus referral that they fax in the morning, so we can be on top of it first thing in the morning. The type of ODR, so the data there in the third column shows you minor versus major. So when the ODR comes through, there's a lot of information that the teachers and time that they have to put into submitting it. Where did it occur, time of day, type of offense, and then have to write it a certain way. You're only talking about the student you're writing it on, so it's fact-based about that student. Sometimes it's more of a review and file, so it's something that the teachers completely handle. They've contacted home, given a consequence from the teacher and at the classroom level. It's more to inform us, to keep us in the loop. And then there's a lot of times too where it requires administration involvement. So we're calling the parent, we're issuing the consequence, we're following up with the students. And we've brought in over the years a lot more restorative practices. So we're bringing students together, talk things through, bringing their parents in for that restorative piece as well. And the last chart is suspension data. You can see that each of the school years, the number of suspensions, and the ISS stands for in-school suspension and OSS for out-of-school suspension. I'll turn it over to Mr. Mazzella.
Actually, before you do, let's do a pause there. Questions for Daryl and his team?
If you go back to the last slide, the data is incredibly helpful. And I also, as a parent, I never appreciated everything that happened in the background. So having all this kind of brought to our attention is really, really helpful. When you look at the data, are there certain themes that you see coming through in the past couple of years, outside of the numbers, certain themes, or is it just the age old, kids have behavior problems every now and then and you work through them, or do you see certain things that are noteworthy?
That's a great question, and we talked about it at the PBIS meeting. Sometimes it's more the cohort of students, so we'll be looking at specific, more than like numbers, like 1.7 versus 2.2 ODRs a day. We'll focus on a certain grade level of students and say, hey, we're seeing this type of office discipline referral coming through amongst fourth graders. Why is that occurring? Because our data is so little in a sense, like 2.2 a day or whatever. So to really say there's a lot happening this portion of the day, this location, really looking at the types of occurrences. So there is definitely some positive trajectory. Like I mentioned earlier, the attendance data has been very promising. We're seeing kids who I saw Pat last night at the concert, that I went up to her and I said, your daughter has been doing phenomenal. Like last year, she had this many absences. Now she's up to this. And you could just see the mom's face. Like, I wasn't gonna call her the next day, but I saw her in person. It was really exciting for her to hear that.
And then just
I hope that
on
answers that.
PBIS, just so comprehensive, you totally appreciate everything that went into that. So,
I have a question. I'm curious. I heard a lot, and it's really more so for the previous presentations that were made regarding the MTSS, the PBIS, a lot of great things that I saw, some really positive things you guys are doing to really just kind of enhance the learning environment is what I heard, and getting feedback from, getting together, collaborating with the staff. I'm curious to know, do you have any ongoing like surveys from the students themselves on what they want to see different, what their experiences, or even from parents?
Yes, actually, our surveys just went out. So our parent survey just went out 2 days ago. And then on Monday, Mr. Maselli and myself are sending surveys to all the students and then to all the staff. So
Okay. Has that happened before? Is that? a
Yeah,
new
we
thing?
did that, we started that last year.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't
And
realize that.
we were a little ahead of the curve. It's now going to be mandated by state law, moving forward.
For students, because I thought we were doing a parent survey for quite a few years.
We have done parent survey for a very long time.
Students
And
themselves?
then during COVID, that kind of fell apart, to be quite honest. And then we added staff and we added students last year.
Oh,
So
that's awesome.
we don't do the little
Yeah,
kids.
you don't want my kindergartner feedback.
Correct. We don't do the little kids. We start, what do we start? Sixth grade?
yeah, sixth grade.
Sixth grade,
Yep.
6 through 12.
I'd like to maybe see that in the future, what kind of feedback you're getting, you know what I mean? Because that would be cool. I think, I look at it from a business perspective, and I think that this is, to me, it's a business. To some degree, right? Obviously, it's education, but when you increase engagement, you get feedback, right? Our customers for you guys is really our students and the parents. Those are our customers, right? You look at it from that perspective, and so getting that feedback, I think, would be very popular, would be really, impactful, and I was just curious to know what kind of feedback you get for, just for future, not now.
Yeah.
I had a child, 10 years ago in your school.
Yes.
And so one of the biggest motivators for me when I was getting recruited to run for the Board of Ed, that wasn't really, planning for that, but then, it kind of happened. And then it was really because I have 2 kids that came to the school and didn't really have any requests on feedback, and not just for me, but even for my 2 kids that were here. It's like, I think it's very insightful to see that maybe they are having trouble in school, maybe they're struggling academically, or they're having learning disability like my daughter did. And to really kind of hear from them, you think that kids don't know, but they do, they know more than you think. And even at, 10 years old, I don't think they're too young to just say, hey, how are you doing? How are these, psychologists, or maybe they're having additional support, how are they doing? Is there something that you like more? Right, soliciting that feedback increases their engagement, and I think it increases the success of the overall student, to be honest. So I'd be interested to kind of hear that feedback in the future.
Yeah, that's a great point. And 2 other informal ways we collect information is, we just sent out, we're doing surveys all the time. We just had student-led conferences. So sent out a parent survey. We talked to students to get feedback on how we've changed the model, and it's drastically changed the last 4 years. The data was very good this year in terms of the response. I wish we had more responses, but the data we got back from the survey was very good. And then there's also a lot of informal where I'll go sit at a table of students in the cafeteria. I'll just be like, how's it going? And then, you know, like, they don't hold back. They tell you if the food's great, or like, we have more time during passing time. I was late the other day. It'd be nice if, so they don't hold back. So a lot of that.
Well, and I think Wendy and you guys can speak to classroom and how that you're collecting that information all the time.
Teachers get feedback all the time. And one of the things is we used to use BART tickets a lot. And we got feedback from kids that, oh yeah, well, what's this BART ticket really mean? It lost its effectiveness.
Yeah.
So every day we're getting feedback, and then we bring that to the PBIS committee. And Kelly and I were just saying, we just talked about this at our PBIS meeting on Tuesday, of soliciting that, really honing in on that student feedback, because it's
Absolutely.
important.
Especially with, like I said, with my experience and, you know, having someone that had a learning disability, oftentimes their self-esteem is already kind of tainted because of that, and they see their friends or their colleague, you know, their fellow teammates that are doing better. So when it's almost like, not that they feel that they're being left behind, but they do feel that way sometimes. So having that feedback, like, hey, I do matter, like I am important, even though I'm not in their mind smart enough like my fellow classmates are, right? And then there's behavioral issues that follow that. Statistically, you see that when somebody has low self-esteem and they're struggling or even have a learning disability. To say you do matter, you know, it's okay that you are struggling here, but having just a little bit more of that presence of particularly with those kids, I think is important.
I agree. I
So.
think it's very important to get that feedback.
Daryl, how did you come up with the approximately 1.6 per day for 2023-24? My math doesn't get us there. Are you extrapolating? Because 222 or 180 divided by 222 is actually like 1.23.
Okay, so yeah.
So I was
that
wondering
is
if you were
a-
extrapolating through.
No,
the
no,
year to
that
see
is
what it would be.
definitely incorrect number then. Yeah, I know it's just over one. And we decided, do we put in the points, but it really emphasizes how small the number is in terms of the office referrals we get. And that's really because of the proactive work. But yeah, that number, if it's off by a little bit, it's just a mistake.
Can you walk us through what one of those office referrals looks like? I mean, how much time does it take up out of your day when you have to deal with one of those?
Well, that depends.
We through the, I said it hit squad through many iterations, as the iterations is what's captured on there, meeting the needs of reporting what we want to. Is it too time consuming? When PBS first started in 2011, they gave you like a sample model, and then there was updates from there that you could follow or not, kind of like a model handbook there is for the handbook. There was stuff that we pulled from there as well. I would say it's fairly reasonable. Some teachers will have a lot more detail to it, and then sometimes just to the point, like students walking down the hallway, tripped student in front of them, when asked why it occurred, they responded with, I don't know. So that's enough information for me to go on, so that when I get the office system referral, I call the student down, I can say, this is what Ms. Such and Such said, could you explain what occurred, to hear their side of it? Because obviously the paper is the teacher's side, but giving the student a chance to say their part, or maybe there's more to the story. So that's just kind of the inroad to that bigger conversation that occurs. So it says like maybe 2 or 3 a day, but sometimes those 2 or 3 could take upwards of a couple hours.
And there might be a
Depending on
parent
what it
phone
is.
call with the
Parent
kids
phone
sitting
call.
there. Could
Yep.
turn into a parent meeting the next day, you know what I mean? Like it kind of all depends on what happens in the context of the investigation part.
Yep.
Where it goes next.
Are there any like overarching goals for the PBIS program? You know, how do you measure its success? How do you know it's doing what you want it to do?
So I would say going back to when Wendy opened, right, and saying, you wanna talk about that
Right.
part of the sentence?
We always go back to our goal. Are we really creating a safe and effective learning environment? So that takes into consideration, you know, all the behavior supports that we do. Looking at this data right here, number of office discipline referrals, this is all reflective on our PBIS. If these numbers were astounding, we would say, you know, our PBIS is not really effective. We need to go back and look at this. So our overarching goals are definitely behavior, creating that safe learning environment, and that's, you know, assessed through, gosh, everything ties together tonight, that it's assessed through the PDEC and our evaluation goals. So I think that's, you know, how we measure it with all of this data.
Do you look at other schools as comparisons? I mean, do they have similar ODR percentages? Are they much
It's
higher,
very,
much
very
lower?
difficult to compare. I'll talk with other administrators and I'll get more of kind of like what trends and types of behaviors they're seeing. But in terms of trying to share data, it's very difficult because different thresholds, you know what I mean? Like different environments, different things going on. But in terms of types of behaviors they're seeing, there's a lot of shared information I get from other administrators. I'm part of a principals group of, I think, 12 different districts, mostly on the smaller side that I meet with regularly. So there's different information that you can gather.
But this, like what we're sharing, this in-depth level of data, we don't have that from other districts.
So there's really no way to
Correct,
compare.
correct. I mean, I can share with you that once upon a time when I was an associate principal, those were not the numbers I had.
Way bigger district.
True. But by percentage, those still weren't the numbers I had.
I could easily imagine that some districts would have an assistant principal whose whole day is spent with.
Multiple assistant principals that's all they do all day long, right? And I think you heard in the presentation about, you know, Amela's in this meeting and she's doing this and she's participating in that. So if discipline were the sole piece of her entire day, we wouldn't have heard that she's able to, you know, be in and part of all of the other pieces, for sure.
And maybe an ignorant question, but not all school systems do PBIS. They might have some
Correct.
form of.
Yep.
100%.
Early on, there was mention of a climate and culture committee.
We're getting to that. Stay tuned. It's
Okay.
coming up next.
It was mentioned before.
It was, but the high school hasn't gone yet, so I did a pause so you guys could ask Daryl and his team
So there's
questions.
not one for the center school?
It's the equivalent.
That's what they
PBIS.
call
It's just a
They just
different name.
renamed what they're doing. The high school did. They just,
I see. So there's not, I was imagining that this, okay. Is there still, didn't there used to be a committee that had like parent involvement that was supposed to, you know, look at school climate?
yeah, so that
School
is,
safety committee?
so now we're jumping ahead to the Safe School Climate Plan
Which
is coming next in the next
Dealing with-
presentation.
different types of school
Correct.
safety or school climate,
Well,
or viewed from a different angle, I guess?
it's viewed from a different angle by law,
Okay.
by
no,
statute.
That's fine.
Yeah.
It's becoming abundantly clear that you have so many levels of support in place and that how they're all interwoven is
Mind-boggling.
mind-boggling. I mean, it's really impressive.
And I think that, you know, our staff and our administrators and using a distributed leadership process in this district have done a yeoman's job, to your point, of interweaving all of the components ultimately to provide a safe, welcoming, nurturing, positive learning environment, helping kids to grow and learn. That's what we're about. That's what we believe. That's what our strategic plan is based on. That's what our portrait of a graduate is based on. Those are the overarching guiding principles for everything we do. We have spent a year as administrators and now the teacher leaders working with a renowned expert in kind of making sure that we are woven together as tight as we can possibly be and to make improvements where we can, which you've heard, right? That they've already been working on that this year, and you're about to hear from high school about what they've done with that this year and what we intend to be doing with it next year. So, you know, I could not be more proud of our staff and the work they've done. And quite honestly, I'm glad we're here tonight showing you all this because, you know, we weren't in a place to do this at the beginning of the year because we've spent all year doing some more learning. But that also speaks volumes, I think, about our collective willingness to jump in with both feet and to really dig in. It's like when I went to the high school staff, what, Jen, I don't know, 9 years ago now?
2015.
Okay, there we go. And I walked into a leadership meeting and I said, I'm sorry, Joe, can I have 15 minutes? Because I'm about to just completely disrupt your leadership team. Hey, will you guys go on this adventure with me? We need to look at a portrait of a graduate. Let's do a year zero. Let's see, what do we think? And they were all in, they're like, Kristen, we're in. And we were way ahead of the curve. So I appreciate you saying that very much.
I wish all the people that were expressing concerns on particular Facebook pages were here to listen. to this.
Oh, I'm sure we're all.
Or I hope that they're listening or listening to the recording.
Hope so.
Hope so, yeah, absolutely. So you talked a little bit about the process by which you came up with the model that you used, and I mean, it's fantastic that it's a team approach to come up with it. But how do you handle staff who either come on board or maybe were part of that process who disagree with some of the approaches you're taking? Is there room for disagreement to be expressed among the staff, and how is that addressed?
We meet once a month, first Tuesday of the month. All staff are invited, so that is their time to express, their opinions, and we do hear from a lot of different staff. And their input is valued. We take that into consideration. We listen. Amela usually leads those meetings. Now Kelly led Tuesday's meeting. So yes, a lot of staff input. And I think that's, you saw the changes that Tracy talked about. Those are all because of, different staff opinions and new staff coming on board.
With different ideas.
Different ideas. They have great ideas. Let's do Spirit Week this way. Let's do this. Let's not have it right after April vacation. Let's have it here. So we're constantly tweaking and taking into consideration people's opinions, and we value that.
Is there a process to evaluate suggestions that are made to determine whether, as a body of teachers, you want to move in a given direction? Or is it more just you hear from a teacher and then the
But I
committee
think
takes it?
I think the committee takes the thoughts, right, and then discusses it, and then makes decisions whether or not, like, is this a valid, are we gonna move forward with this?
But it is a deliberative.
But it's a deliberative,
process.
intentional process, correct? Yes, yep.
And even as a school, we're very solution oriented in terms of if someone's at a PBIS meeting and they're like, well, I'm seeing this trend, or I'm thinking that I see this, but here's my idea. So that's usually how the conversation goes. And then we might not agree. We might say, well, let's think about it. Let's do a little more reading and talking. Let's come back next month. So it's usually not always about making a decision at the moment. And in terms of the new staff, new this year is the trimester new staff meeting. So Mrs. Kelleher and myself met with all new staff, just new staff, and said, you're new. What do you see? How's it going? Do you have any other ideas? And it's really their chance to speak freely, because it can seem kind of daunting when you're a brand new staff member to just voice those things sometimes. So they have their own kind of forum, the brand new staff.
Thank you.
I have something that I'd like to add.
Yeah.
So I think it even starts before then. I think it's part of our interview process as well.
Mhm.
So we do a very thorough interview process with a team of people on the panel. And we ask questions that also, we don't directly say like, what do you want, PBIS or climate, but we can tell by answers, and then all staff members, whether you're a teacher or a school psychologist, you come in and do a performance task. So we see you interacting with kids. So we do get a kind of a good feel, and if somebody came across and said something like during a lesson that led us to believe they probably wouldn't be a good match for us, or during an interview, like, oh, I don't think there should be any behavior, no discipline, that's gonna be a red flag for us. So I think that we, because of our interview process, I think that we are able to read some of that and get our finger on the pulse for some of those things as well.
All right, Mr. Maselli, high school, you guys are up.
So small but mighty, we like to consider ourselves that. When things look very different at Bolton High School than they do at many high schools, and certainly at the center school. So as you listen to the team and we go through some things, keep in mind, customer service, right? That's what we're all about with the kids. And we are nimble enough to do that. So between the leadership team, you've heard about the distributed leaderships in both schools, we meet every week. And PLCs, where every teacher is part of one of the 3 conversation groups for 40 to 60 minutes every single week. So nothing gets too far down the road before there's an opportunity for conversation to look at those things and to talk about kids specifically. For example, today's debrief in PLCs was from teachers spending last week doing some more of those peer observations we do 4 or 5 times a year, but they didn't go in to watch each other. They went in to watch their kids in somebody else's classroom. So the takeaways from that, well, Joe was very different in this class versus this class, and those two teachers can talk. So that's the level of customer service and being nimble and really trying to get to know every single kid. So when we talk MTSS, we're talking about that academic piece, right? And we'll also talk about the emotional and the behavioral piece. So how do we know that we need to kind of do something beyond the normal classroom schedule for students? It's data, right? So there is classroom grades and all that kind of stuff. There's the big assessments, the SAT, all that. The attendance, the discipline, by the way, for I don't even know how many years running, the #1 discipline issue that keeps the dean of students very busy, not even very is not even the right word, but keeps her the busiest is kids just getting to class on time. That is absolutely the #1. So when we get to referral data a little while, like ridiculous percentage of that. And I guess we're blessed that that's our big problem, right? Doesn't mean we ignore it, but that's where we're at. So examples of some of the things that we can do, again, academically for kids that we've identified that need a little something extra is listed there. And that list grows every year, but it also changes every year, right? Because we've got to meet that particular client where they live. So we may go a whole year with never needing to do a check-in, check-out with a regular ed student. But we may have a year where we've got 3 kids stopping by guidance every morning, just to check in, right? So those are some of the examples that we do. Some of them are, credit bearing, like credit recovery. Something as simple as I got a call from a mother who had another kid go through the school, has a freshman, student struggling in a particular area. I'm like, oh, I know her. And I grabbed a kid that I teach in physics, who I knew would be a good match. And there's no paperwork, there's no big thing. I introduced them and said, could you guys spend a little time together during connections and get her caught up on math, right? So we can be that nimble, no schedule change, no big deal, phone call the mom, hey, does this sound good? And that's what we do. So that's where some of the examples of what we do to support kids academically in classes. Like.
Good evening, Christine Johnson, Dean of Students, for a few more weeks here at Bolton High School. Thank you for having us. I have 2 teachers with me tonight. One is Carolyn Teitelbaum, who is a member of our newly formed MTSS team. She will be speaking about our MTSS team. Also here tonight is Carrie Lynch. She is a grade 9 English language arts teacher who is a member of our PBIS team, which we renamed our Climate and Culture Committee, CCC. That's where that comes from. So our MTSS team consists of teachers from our business department, math department, English department, social studies department, and our guidance department. These people came together. We asked them, would you please be a member of this team? We need to dive into this newly formed, this MTSS. What is it? They came together. They said, absolutely, we'll be happy to help you. What's important to know is all of the members of our MTSS team are support teachers. They support students in something we call RTI. We're going to change the name to an MTSS class. We call RTI, which is a support class. So all of our members have experience as RTI teachers or support teachers. So Carolyn, why don't you come on up?
Hello, good evening. So this year we established, as Christine said, our team about mid-year, and then we conducted a self-assessment of the current process in order to identify strengths and areas of improvement. We used information from the self-assessment and feedback from our colleagues, as well as suggestions from our consultant to create a new form to be used in the student support process. The new form streamlines documentation and provides clarity, effectively communicating relevant data from administration and classroom teachers to the support teacher. Support teachers will know the root cause of the student challenge, which could be academic in nature, an executive functioning weakness, or even an attendance challenge. Once identified, the team will also write an action plan to support the student. And I'm very happy to report that this process is going to be piloted next school year.
So here's some of our data for the last 3 years in terms of, students in, assigned to one of the support teachers that Christine just mentioned, for help, right, in math or English language arts or those other categories. So I spent some time staring at this, and I remember I'm a science guy, there's no real trend, but here's why. We respond to the needs of the kids in front of us semester by semester, right? Christine and the guidance team and the MTS team, they'll look and say, here's a student this year right now in front of us. Can we get them into is it appropriate to get them into a particular class? And can we do that to get them the support that they need? And it's going to vary, cohort to cohort, year to year. Maybe you've got a group of 3 or 4 students, for example, that do great in 9th grade math, but when they hit that grade 10 geometry, which is very different than algebra, as many of you will remember. So now maybe there's a lot more kids, but it's not a trend. It's just how that cohort works as things change year to year. And always keep in mind when you're looking at any data for us, and it's true for the center school as well, but especially for us, we're so small that a student or two makes a huge difference in percentages and those kinds of things. So that is just a snapshot of the last few years. You can see the enrollment numbers on the left side, up and down a little bit, and then the numbers of kids by grade in the different support classes.
So PBIS, when we look back, we started about a year after the center school started. It was a team of administrators and teachers that took on the challenge of looking at what we had in place for our discipline referral process. The team originally did create a new referral process, a form. It identified majors and minors. We use some of that today. Basically, student behavioral expectations were also identified. The center school had a little chart that highlighted those. We too have those, and they still ring true today. What I'd like to say, though, is the center school is doing, as Kristen said, yeoman's work, because your efforts with PBIS really show when these students come up as 9th graders. And we don't have to do the work that you all have to do. We do it differently, and we have found our right fit. But thank you very much, because the kids are coming up and they're really pretty good. We did change a few things. It evolves, kids evolve. The BARC tickets, as the center schools spoke of, we had Bulldog tickets. The kids just didn't really buy into those tickets. So we tailored it to the kids, what they wanted, and we looked at more of a rewards for the whole school, not necessarily these tickets. Kids would get the tickets and then they wouldn't bring them down and turn them in. It didn't have any type of, buy-in value. So that's changed a little bit. Carrie Lynch is going to speak to you about PBIS, which is also now known as our Climate and Culture Committee.
Okay, so as Christine said, about 3 years ago, we changed from PBIS to the Climate and Culture Committee, and plan events that include both students and staff. The committee is consisted of multiple teachers who volunteer their time. We meet monthly. We analyze data in all areas of academics and behaviors, as well as citizenship at the school, in the community, and our global world. So we review the data, we analyze which student behaviors need to be addressed, and then we create different methods to improve student challenges. Rewards have been offered to students for achieving desired behavioral standards. They include a technology challenge, a tardy challenge, academic improvement, academic achievement, a ray of sunshine, which is a good citizenship recognition. We just had one today for the technology challenge, where students who went an entire month without being disciplined or spoken to about their technology, they got to go play sports during the connections period. So that was great. I think they really enjoyed that. So basically we focus on different areas to inspire our students to improve the behavior that we would like to see. New this year, the committee is promoting awareness of different causes by wearing ribbons and pins to highlight initiatives such as Anti-Bullying Week and Stress Awareness Month.
So in collaboration with administration and multiple student groups, this slide is going to highlight some of the examples of how we work to provide a positive student culture at Bolton High School. So just some highlights. Christine meets with the students and conducts an annual handbook review at the beginning of the year to ensure all students are explicitly taught appropriate behavioral expectations. Christine even takes the students on a field trip around the school to teach the expectations at each school location. We recognize one student in each grade as Student of the Month. Moreover, this past year, we went one step further and each staff member picked a handful of students and wrote personal notes to every student in the building in hopes to make each feel appreciated and connected to at least one teacher in the building. We also have a very involved Student Council and National Honor Society that work in partnership to organize a variety of events throughout the school year.
In addition to the positive culture with the students, the Climate Culture Committee also supports many positive cultural initiatives for the staff. So there are frequent staff lunches. We also like food at our school.
Constant theme.
It's a big favorite. Staff celebrations are also acknowledged by the Sunshine Committee. Most recently, we had a joint baby and wedding shower for our staff members for their upcoming celebrations. Information is also consistently shared via the weekly update, which is sent out by administration each week to the staff, highlighting pertinent information for the week and the month. Teacher kudos and student pictures are part of the weekly update and something that the staff looks forward to seeing every Monday. It also reminds us that our weekend is over as we get the email every Sunday night. This week is Teacher Appreciation Week, where we were given multiple treats that made us feel valued. This often happens. This doesn't just happen during Teacher Appreciation Week. I can speak personally. I have worked in another district, and I can honestly say that our staff culture at Bolton High School is beyond excellent. It's fantastic. We feel appreciated by the administration and enjoy the friendly staff and atmosphere. Is a very collegial environment.
So this is our PBIS matrix. It is in our handbook. I do review it with the students. As Carolyn said, I do take the kids, we go into the bathrooms and what are the expectations in the bathrooms. We go into guidance. I take the students into the office. When you're in the office, this is the expectation. Off your phone, quiet your voice. It's a place of business. The nurse's office, they visit the nurse's office, they line up at the cafeteria. So our kids know the expectation in, different locations of the building. So it still rings true. It's a good matrix that was made a few years ago and we've kept it. So we also have some data. Attendance is the block on the left. We take, we keep data two ways for school attendance. One is for daily attendance and one is for actually, I call it seat time for earning credit. As Daryl said, anything over 9, students are allowed 9 absences. Over 9 absence, they require additional documentation such as a medical note for the absence to be excused. We have chronic absences that's 10% at any time of the school year. If a student is absent 10%, they are considered a chronically absent student. So that number does ebb and flow based on the time of year. As you can see, 39 students 3 years ago to 22 to 23. So our data is definitely trending in a positive manner. I do a lot of work with attendance. I make a lot of calls. Beth and I have done many home visits. The kids, they do share a lot of different reasons for being out, and that is an issue here. It is in a lot of high schools with students being out. So that is a focus of mine this year to try to improve our attendance. We also have discipline data similar to BCS. I would say, I didn't do the math, but I did an average. I get anywhere from 1 to 2 a day, but typically it's for 3 tardies to class. That's basically what it is. That's the number one reason I'm busy, is to try to get kids to class, and due to tardies, either tardy to school or tardy to class, they're tired, they want to sleep in. I do try to arrange for an upperclassman to have a first period study hall. As long as their grades are good, they can sleep in a little bit. But tardies are our number one discipline issue. We do track our data. We have majors and minors. We consider something a major if a student is issued a suspension, be it an in-school suspension or an out-of-school suspension. And everything else is pretty much a minor. So therefore, our data looks a little bit different, but similar as far as the trends. Out-of-school and in-school suspensions, you can see our data. Everything is, I'm proud of the data. I've worked in a different district and I can honestly say my day was consumed with referrals and you know, tracking data for discipline. So 1 to 2 is really not bad. It's very manageable. I think I'd like to say that I think our discipline data is excellent. It's a testament to the teachers. They have structures in their classroom. They have great behavioral management strategies that they implement. And, you know, when they get to me, it's usually a minor. They handle a lot of the major, when they get to me, it's a major. They handle a lot of the minor discipline within the 4 walls of the classroom.
And our last little tidbit is the graduation data. And again, with our small classes, a student here or there makes a big difference. The thing about graduation data is the way the state calculates this is based on a cohort. So for example, if a student came into Bolton as a sophomore and stayed for a into junior year, so it's here for a couple years, but then moved away, didn't enroll in another Connecticut school or whatever, that's a dropout for us, right? That student didn't graduate, even though perhaps they moved away. Perhaps you have a student for really good reasons doesn't finish in 4 years. And I'm not necessarily talking about a student with an IEP, but perhaps a student that transferred to, as you remember from the budget, the Vernon Adult Education Program has really good programs for students who a traditional high school isn't a good fit, that they could go and, in fact, they're up to 3 different ways of doing it. Any one of those ways is paid for, great, works with guidance, get it all set, and it counts as a student not graduating for us. So even when we do what's best for students and families, those numbers are sometimes reflected as non-graduates for us. There's talk about tracking 5 or 6 year graduation rates. They keep talking about it. We haven't seen that. So this is a traditional, you did it in 4 years graduation rate. And just a note, they haven't calculated the state average from last year's graduating class yet, but we were at 96. That is the end of our notes. What questions can I answer for you?
All right, I'm gonna go with our concluding slide then. Just a reminder that MTSS prioritizes equity. It's used to differentiate and monitor supports for students. It's a continuum of evidence-based practices. It uses data to inform our decisions. We use screening. We implement with fidelity. We utilize progress monitoring, and we're focused on equitable outcomes. As you heard multiple times tonight, it looks different at different levels. Supports all of our systems, our leadership teams, our grade level PLCs, our grade level teams, PBIS, CCC teams to guide planning and implementation. Supports positive, predictable, equitable, and safe classroom and school environments. Actively, and I think effectively, promotes student academic, social, emotional, and behavioral growth. It promotes and supports our educators' professional learning and wellness. And it commits to ongoing support of students, educators, and families. And I want to thank you all tonight for letting us present to you. And I want to thank my team. You guys are awesome. Great job. Thank you very much. All right, we're going to move on to our next presentation. For those of you, please.
We won't be offended.
We will not be offended if you do not want to stay and go home.
Oh.
Jared, we have one.
Do we want to consider?
We do. It's up to you guys. What do you want to do? Do you want to push the next one to June?
I'm just saying, I have a lot of questions.
I'm strong.
What happens to the next one? I mean, that will be out of the.
Well, we have another meeting in May. So we could do it at our next meeting in 2 weeks.
Does it require different people that wouldn't otherwise?
That one, no, that one is just confirm for me, please, the next presentation. What's the matter?
Oh, if the budget doesn't pass, then we don't necessarily.
I'm sorry, what?
Said I didn't realize there was a meeting in 2 weeks.
Well, there is one on the schedule. Or we could do it at the June meeting. We could do it at the June 13th meeting. That's fine. We still need to have another meeting in 2 weeks, but we don't have to do that at that meeting. How about that? So the June 13th meeting, do you wanna?
Cool with that. That's fine with me, and then I'll, Facebook group, make sure that.
All right, so do you wanna maybe by consensus, just decide that we will move that to June 13th, the bullying and the safe school climate plan?
Technically, it might need a motion to move it to a future meeting.
That's a good call. Okay.
I can make a motion to move item E5C to our June meeting.
Second.
Any questions or comments on this? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That's fine, me.
Okay. All right. So now, gotta find out where I am here.
You're all too tired to move.
All right, we got a quick BCS update from Daryl. You guys really?
They have another.
Oh, I forgot. My bad. I'm sorry.
It'll be quick.
Yeah, I know. Geez, we're gonna sleep here. Go, Daryl, go.
So BCS has been very busy with state testing since April break, smarter balance testing, and then grade 5 and 8 NGSS testing will all finish later this month. The staff is very proud of how hard the students have been working on the testing. Recently, we had 2 very well-attended concerts. We had our spring choral concert on May 2nd, and last night we had our band concert. A big shout out to the music department, phenomenal, great turnout. Kids were just amazing with their performances. All students are excited for the end of the year, but especially our 8th graders. We have our High Meadows trip coming up, 8th grade class night dance, and 8th grade promotion, which is on Thursday, June 13th at 10 a.m. in the BCS gymnasium. Our staff students are all looking forward to the many fun assemblies, trips, activities that will lead up to the last day of school.
Great, thank you. Joe.
I'll be even more brief. Bolton High School graduation 2024 is June 7th at 6:30, rain or shine. It is a diploma ceremony, senior awards, and scholarships. We hope you can all join us. There'll be a seat waiting for you. Let us know if you can join us that evening. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Unfinished business, none.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm
Are you
done.
done? You didn't say I wrapped on, that
Yeah.
concludes my report
That
for the evening.
concludes my
as
report
usual.
for the evening.
All right, unfinished business. We don't have any new business. First read, bookworms, K-3.
All right, so this.
We're gonna be quick.
Pretty quick. Because we know that we kept you kind of updated for the, I feel like we've been doing this for a very long time, because we have. There've been a lot of changes. I'm not reading through the entire process, but I am going to go look at this last bullet, and I'm going to have the teacher speak to you because they would like to move forward at K3 to move forward with the bookworms compendium. We did mention that this does include pieces that we already own in district that don't require any additional cost. So they are going to speak to the work that has been done, and we are moving EL to grades 4 through 6. All align with grade level standards, all include writing instruction. They all meet the requirements for the state. They're both approved programs, and they both provide materials for differentiation. But I think you heard some more about EL because that's what we entered the year with. So I am going to let the teachers tell you about bookworms. And also I just very, very quickly, and I know I want to get them all home, but yes, everyone has done a tremendous amount of work, but this little team here, they've done a huge lift. It has been a tremendous amount.
We carry around pom-poms.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
I do carry around pom-poms. I feel like, yeah, I should be handing them chocolate like every day. Okay.
Really quickly, so bookworms is part of a compendium, where it has to have, we have to have equity, foundations and geos. They just released it in December from the state and they approved it. Finally, it's a great program. The kids love it. And we're doing it K3, like she said. We have foundations already. We've been doing that for years. In third grade, we transitioned to Sunday, which is also a phonics-based spelling program, because we do it in fourth and fifth also. So we kind of wanted to be, third grade is kind of like that year where we make the transition for the kids, and to do a different program, because foundations doesn't go to fifth grade. And we like it because we're moving away from guided reading. Not that we're not using grade books for the kids, because we are when we're in our small groups, but we're using the geodes, which is decodables. Thank you. It's really late for me. I usually am in bed by now. Decodables, where the kid, it's, you know, meets the kids' needs because it's all phonics based for them. And we have them from the beginning. And we were looking at the decodables, and even third graders can use them. Like I could use them with some of my groups, which is amazing. It's 3 segments, 45 minutes of shared reading, 45 minutes of ELA, and 45 minutes of differentiated instruction, which is what we call our WIN block.
So the next slide, the differentiated instruction. This time's devoted to meet the needs of all students, not just students that are struggling. And what's nice is we will have 45 minutes to work with students, because the other 2 segments are whole class, the ELA and the shared reading. So the needs of students are identified with informal assessments and formal assessments, so we know how to plan. And we're given this wonderful resource book, How to Plan Differentiated Reading Instruction, which will receive PD on next year. And Kelly's already given us some really great ideas to get started with. And you can see the staircase there. That's the staircase of reading skills. So, you know, really quick on the bottom, we have, you know, kids coming in for kindergarten, really needing that phonological awareness, and then getting up to word recognition and fluency and comprehension. And our goal is by the end of third grade that they are ready and are at that top staircase. But we all know kids all learn at different levels and different rates. And that's why the differentiated instruction is really important, really giving them what they need. And I can't tell you how excited the K3 teachers are about bookworms.
Oh,
we love it.
Just a quick overview of the 3 sections. I'm just gonna talk about shared reading. Shared reading is 45 minutes, and it's usually a read aloud. We choral read with the kids, so we're all reading together, and then the kids go off and they do paired reading. Sometimes we pair them from like the high kids with some of the lower kids, so they're getting some model reading. But it's books, it's like real literature, like fiction, so much fiction, which is amazing. We're reading Pachamania right now. If you know that book, it's like amazing. The kids love it. It also has the word study component. We're doing foundations and Sunday. There's so much text engagement. The kids are so into it, the vocabulary, it's amazing. It's just so amazing. In third grade, we're adding some of the IAB stuff, the practice sort of balance assessment things, because we need to do that to get them ready for the test. But this program also gets them ready. The writing they have to do for the responses, amazing. The kids are so excited. You should see them. They're just amazing. You can come in and see them anytime.
Very cute pictures. Look at them holding their books. And pretty happy.
Oh, yeah.
They're so happy. It's very cute. So we do transition to EL education. So Kelly's going to go into that a little bit because it does shift into some more nonfiction.
Yes, so EL builds deep knowledge by using content-rich, authentic text and real world topics for STEM, social studies, and literature. And it is really strong with nonfiction text, which is key for the upper grade levels, because building their prior background knowledge on a variety of topics is what really gets students to start comprehending text and understanding more vocabulary. This is just a sample of the grade 5. So their first module is a theme of human rights. Then it moves into biodiversity in the rainforest, athlete leaders of social change, and the impact of natural disasters. It also hits on some of their science and social studies standards, So they have been able to kind of pull other texts in and really allow the kids more variety.
It also includes a performance task in addition to the writing, and you'll see that there, so that the students are having a chance to do some more listening and speaking, which are some of the strands that are always a little bit harder to get to.
And they have differentiation options for teachers right in their manuals, and it definitely includes supports for struggling students. But have been in several of the classrooms, and the teachers are doing a great job just adjusting and scaffolding for the students, adding in a few extra slides to explain a topic and provide them with that prior knowledge that's necessary, especially since this is the first year and they don't have the prior years to build on from it.
So what does the transition look like from third to fourth? I'm gonna ask Kelly to step in if I leave anything out. So bookworms is mostly classic fiction texts. There are things you are probably familiar with from your own childhood. I Can Read Books, Danny and the Dinosaur, Judy Blume, some classic fiction. And EL eases them into mostly stronger nonfiction piece. There is still fiction, but it is worked in a little bit differently. And it gives the teachers a little bit of flexibility. So they are bringing in some things like poetry and short pieces of fiction, like short stories, to shore up some of those nonfiction books. So there's strong early literacy, phonics, and fluency, but very strong vocabulary development as they move up through the grade levels, which is what they did. I was just in a full day training today from Hill for Literacy with the state, and it was all comprehension and how building background knowledge is critical to that. So there is shared reading in bookworms. EL education transitions into more close repeated reading. So they may read things more than once, like a small passage, to make sure that they understand and that they're looking at all parts of that. So it's much more, it's just more advanced for older elementary and early middle school students. It's a little bit more structured in bookworms. There's some more flexibility, allowing for supplementation in EL education. The teachers have been working incredibly hard to supplement that as well, and differentiation.
An example of the flexibility was grade 5 for their unit on athlete leaders of social change. We met and I got a bunch of texts from my public library of other athlete leaders of social change, so the students could pick one, research an additional one, and kind of compare the pair texts with each other for a written assignment.
And then the teachers used some of that information and purchased additional texts that will go along with that particular unit now. So we have been getting them the books that they want to sort of round out those modules. There is a digital platform that goes with grades 4, 5, and 6. It is not required, but we are using it currently. It does replace, we are using the Imagine Learning Classroom right now, and that was part of our pilot. So we are going to transition to KIDM. It's similar. It has curriculum navigation, teacher resources, but it also provides curriculum-based assessments for students. So if you want a curriculum-based comprehension assessment, they can do it in the digital platform, and it will look at where they may be hitting or missing certain standards. Also has critical thinking extension activities and some tools for the teachers to progress monitor the students. Okay, and these are our purchases. This is, we need to know, we own Haggerty, we have that currently. We own Foundations, we have that currently. We are purchasing geodes through the Right to Read grant. That is a very robust decodable text program. And Bookworms is fully open source, but we have purchased a number of the student books for the pilot. We will continue, we will purchase the rest of those books that we need through the Right to Read grant as well. There are no required recurring costs involved with that compendium. So once it's one and done. EL education, also fully open source, requires the purchase of student books. We have them from the pilot. So the required books were purchased. We have been purchasing recommended books that supplement the modules for the teachers this year. And KIDM is the digital companion. Again, it's not required, but it is recommended for lessons and curriculum-based assessments. We are going to reassess and see how much we're using that, if we're doing some more assessments than we thought, or fewer assessments than we thought by the end of next year. But the teachers are currently using the open source version and the demo version that we received, and they're working on the lesson slides with Kelly. So I know that she's been working on them, and they can download those and have those in their own personal digital libraries. And the funding source for that has been some shifting of title monies and SHIP grants. You know, grant funding.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Any
I know it's a
questions?
lot all at once and it's late. Okay.
All right, thank you. All right, we're gonna move on to the BCS grade 6.
Yes, and, one second, let me just grab that.
Darren can do that right now. Please.
Oh, I put it down. All right, so as Sue said earlier, put it here. I guess it is late because I forgot that I put it right to my left. Mary Dombrowskis attended the subcommittee meeting, when we met on April 29th. And she is proposing a Music Survey 6 course. We currently have a Music Survey 7 and a Music Survey 8. For 6th graders, we only have ensemble courses in music. That's not everyone's cup of tea. Some students are anxious. So I am going to read Mary's description because it is more thorough and will do more justice than I could. This will provide a non-ensemble music option that will be available to 6th grade students regardless of prior experience in one of their traditional ensembles. It would meet the needs of students who do not participate in ensembles for various reasons, including student interest or, or performance or skills or being nervous about that. So the proposed course is designed to teach students how to listen to, compose, and make music while appreciating it for its musical, cultural, and historical values. Students will develop skills and an understanding of musical elements and concepts, including melody, notation, rhythm, form, harmony, texture, timbre, and expressive elements through active learning. Mrs. Dombrowskis is already working through some of the units that she is proposing. She is doing American Music Perspectives, History and the Development of Musical Styles of the US, because musical styles and world musical styles is in the 8th grade survey course. She is focusing on world percussion instruments, including world music drumming and using the boom markers at the lower levels. Those are a lot of fun. Xylophones and the Orff instruments, composing music digitally through Soundtrap and Noteflight, science of sound and hearing, music and media, and they will maintain a weekly listening journal. So we are looking for approval for that.
And the
The only
cost?
cost
Yeah.
involved, I thought it was 50, but it's actually $30.
Excellent.
So there we go.
Come on, you like that, right?
Yeah.
Oh, for $0
All right, but 30, come on.
It's $30 for the program that they would be using for doing some of the composition. So we already have this program. We would be purchasing a few more licenses.
We have a motion, please, to approve the BCS grade 6 music survey course.
I'll make a motion to approve the BCS grade 6 music survey course.
Second.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions or comments or input? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstaining? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, yes.
H-
HVAC.
All right, so Connecticut, you may remember recently passed Connecticut IAQ Act 22-118, which requires all school systems to have an engineered HVAC inspection and evaluation to be performed on all school buildings and every 5 years after that. We went out to bid because this money was in the CAPA budget, and we received one bid from Silver, Petrocelli and Associates in the amount of $54,400. This bid meets all the established inspection, evaluations, and reporting requirements. The bid price came in within the expected range, and it's actually less than what the capital reserve amount budget allocation was of $66,000. That should be good news. So I'm looking for a motion to award the BCS and BHS HVAC inspection and evaluation bid to Silver, Petrocelli and Associates in the amount of $54,400.
Second.
Any questions or comments? This is every 5 years, correct?
Correct, and you may recall in the CAPA budget, they put in, they've spread that out over 4 years, waiting to see then what will be the cost in the 5th year, 5 years out from now.
Good. Any other questions? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstaining? I think everybody- And Chromebooks.
I'm requesting a bid waiver for the purchase of 125 non-touch screen Chromebooks and 45 touchscreen Chromebooks. The best contract pricing is through the interlocal purchasing system TIPS, which is a national purchasing cooperative open to government agencies, education, city or county governments. IT Savvy is the lowest vendor, meeting our needs at 43,000 for the non-touch devices and 16,920 for the touchscreen devices, for a total of $59,920. 43,000 of that is in our approved budget for grades 5 through 9 for this year, and we had the grade 1 touchscreens in the choice budget for this year. So this also includes accidental damage protection, Google licensing, white glove service, which includes applying the asset tags, the inventory spreadsheet, the green packaging, Google domain enrollment, which allows us to accelerate the rollout schedule and save valuable time. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the bid waiver to purchase 125 non-touchscreen Chromebooks and 45 touchscreen Chromebooks through TIPS for $59,920.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Abstaining? All right, resignations.
I'd just like to inform the board, we have received resignations from BCS reading specialist Krista Parison. She's going to another district. And BHS English teacher Dominique Purcell is going to stay home with her new little baby and be a full-time mommy effective the end of this school year. And I want to thank them very much for their service. And you heard about the announcements of our retirements this evening. And that is that.
Okay, future business.
We don't, I just would like to let the board know that Mr. Maselli will not be at the June meeting. His son is graduating from high school that night, and I had already told him a long time ago he wouldn't be here. So Ms. Johnson will be doing it one last time for our presentation on the bullying piece, okay? All right.
Could we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, please.
Oh, yeah. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Everybody very
Nice
much.
job, everybody. Thank you all very much.
Informative.